Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Konoha, Naruto who picks up Kage ninja fragments attributes. Chapter 41. Even though the fourth Hokage once made great contributions to Konoha, it is no longer the case. Now is the period when the third Hokage regains power. It is normal for some people's attitudes to change. After the conversation, Shikaku quickly identified the positions represented by these ninja families. There are members of the family who are in the Konoha Council of Elders. Most of them maintain a neutral attitude and are simply referred to as wallflowers. Except for some other families who also have a neutral attitude, most of the ninja families still remember the fourth Hokage. Shikaku classified these families one by one. The ninja families that remained neutral towards Naruto included the Hokage family and the elders. When he saw them in the future, he would treat them coldly. As for the others, those who have a relatively friendly attitude towards Naruto can be treated in a more friendly manner. After writing these down respectively, Shikaku also expressed his views on Naruto's actions. Because Naruto now may not only represent himself, but also the attitude of the Namikaze clan. Everyone gathered around and thought you need to know what a wise general like Shikaku thinks. In my opinion, the Namikaze clan's attitude towards Konoha may be Naruto's attitude towards Konoha. In other words, the Namikaze clan uses Naruto to determine who is the enemy and who is the friend. Shikaku expressed his analysis bit by bit. What Naruto did this time, although he taught a lot of classmates a lesson, is just that. We can understand it as his personal action, but he is not. He took our position into consideration when he acted. The daughter of the Hai family, and the Kiba of the Inuzuka family. Logically speaking, these people should be the targets of his revenge, but he didn't. I don't think a child would think that much. Although this may not be completely accurate, it is certain that there is someone behind Naruto who is driving him to do these things that are different from the past. In fact, after chatting with Haichi and Dingza, Shikaku was indeed relieved a lot even though he was still unclear about the purpose of Naruto's actions. From Naruto's action of letting Ino go, Shikaku could tell that Naruto had indeed considered the actions of the family behind them. He had reason to let Kiba go, but there was absolutely no reason to let Ino go. After all, those people he left all the girls who caused trouble in their uniforms, except for Ino, who didn't do anything to her. This is an attitude. Shikaku's words gave these people some ideas. Does Naruto's attitude relate to the attitude of the Namikaze clan? As one of the two wealthy families in Konoha, Hyuga Hazashi is also thinking about Naruto. Although he and his daughter are in the same class, it seems that they have no contact at all, and his daughter is still communicating with others. It's hard to explain. There's no hope of showing kindness to Naruto. But there is no hope for his daughter. Hazu has a nephew who is a little older than Naruto and is also in the Ninja Academy. Although Hazu does not have a good relationship with him, Hazu thinks that maybe he can use this incident to resolve the issue. His hatred, the other side gave him a chance to be valued by the family. In the future, if the Namikaze clan becomes popular, Neji, who has an intermediary relationship, will definitely have a good position in the Hyuga clan, even if he is a separate clan. Rizu feels guilty for his younger brother who died for him, so if possible, he hopes to make it up to his nephew. He didn't have the chance before, and his nephew also had a grudge against him. Now, this opportunity has come, and I want to fight for my nephew. However, Rizu remembered that his nephew was not very good at making friends, and he was also the kind of person who shouted about his fate every day, which would make people not want to communicate with him. No, this is Neji's opportunity, he can't let him miss it. Hazu secretly decided that when he got back and convinced his nephew, he would go to the library and help him find some books on making friends. Neji, this friend's uncle has decided to give it to you. Fugaku's eyes were deep and he stood there coldly, showing off the style of the Uchiha clan. Although it looked cool, his heart actually went cold. He could basically see the situation of his Uchiha clan in Konoha during this meeting. No one even came to talk to him. However, Fugaku was very interested in what Shikaku and the others were talking about over there. Although he was far away and couldn't hear the sound, he could see but didn't know how to ventriloquism, but he couldn't help but have the Sharingan, so. Fugaku used one of the Sharingan's abilities, the copying eye. In my opinion, the Namikaze clan's attitude towards Konoha. Then, a rather terrifying scene occurred. Fugaku stood there alone and began to talk to himself. Some people were not very far away from him at first, but now they subconsciously went further. After all, the people he was talking to there seemed to have mental problems. If you look closely, they were from the Uchiha clan. Then it can be more certain that there is a mental problem. Fugaku didn't notice this change, or in other words, he was engrossed in copying Shikaku's words while thinking. The Namikaze clan. Naruto. He knew who Naruto was. He was the son of the fourth Hokage, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. Looking back at the ancestors, he might have fought against the Uchiha clan. After all, the Thousand Hands clan is related to them by marriage. But now in the ninja village period, the confrontation between the Uchiha clan and the Senju clan is already a thing of the past, and Fugaku will not remember it too much. According to what Shikaku said, Fugaku deduced an incredible possibility, that is, his Uchiha clan might be able to use Naruto's relationship to save the day. Let the people in the clan get close to Naruto, and then take the opportunity to build a relationship with the Namikaze clan, preferably an alliance. Anyway, there is no conflict between their Uchiha clan ancestors and the Namikaze clan. The Namikaze clan is different from the Hokage in Konoha. They can have a good relationship with the Namikaze clan. The Uchiha clan is indeed arrogant, but one person can beat the third Hokage to the point of losing his temper and defeat a whole family in the root organization. Fugaku feels that this person must have been the two Konoha builders during the Warring States period. The level of the villagers. Such a family does have the qualifications to be on par with their Uchiha clan. Even the arrogant Uchiha clan members in his clan would definitely be polite. As long as there is no hatred, fists can still make the Uchiha clan sit down and talk honestly. After all, didn't Madara Uchiha back then only have to be beaten down to speak properly? However, the Uchiha clan is not very prosperous. It is difficult to find someone of the same age as Naruto, let alone someone of the same age as Naruto. Where can I find such a person to get in touch with that Naruto? Oh, no, isn't his son in the same class as Naruto? Fugaku suddenly realized at this moment that his son Sasuke and this Naruto were classmates, and he had met Naruto before when he went to the academy. But, Fugaku frowned slightly. Sasuke, Akko, who doesn't seem to be good at making friends. Even if he was in the same academy as that Naruto, it would probably be very difficult for him to have a good relationship with Naruto. Fugaku thought in his mind that although it was difficult, he did not intend to give up. They were now in close contact with the Hokage forces. Therefore, he believed that contacting, making friends with, and forming an alliance with the Namikaze clan would stabilize the current situation and resolve this matter. The crux of the matter. Thinking of this, Fugaku decided to find time to go to the bookstore to look for any books that could help his son make friends. Although the Uchiha clan has always been too proud to have any friends, once they make friends, they will have a lifelong hand-in-hand relationship. Therefore, Fugaku is still very confident. If his son becomes friends with that Naruto, he will definitely become an Iron Warrior. Dudes. Sasuke, this friend's dad has decided to give it to you. The third Hokage looked through the crystal ball and his eyes wandered between the members of the ninja family on the field. After a long time, he sighed softly. It is really an internal and external trouble. Outside there is the disturbance caused by the Namikaze clan's settlement, and inside there is the trouble caused by the Uchiha clan. However, if he can't hold on to Konoha, he still has to hold on. Fortunately, as far as the current situation is concerned, if the arrival of the Namikaze clan can bring about a change in the constant friction between Konoha and the Uchiha clan, then it will actually be a good thing. The third Hokage is different from Danzo in that he can tolerate his attitude towards the Uchiha clan as long as they are not particularly seeking death. Now that he is old, he just wants to seek stability, let Konoha pass peacefully in his hands, and then wait for the fifth Hokage to take over. The third Hokage thought about it and realized that it was almost time for the meeting, but Danzo hadn't come yet. At this time, the third Hokage couldn't help but said, "Shisui, go and see why Danzo hasn't come here yet." "Yes, Hokage-sama." Danzo hid in the darkness of the root organization, thinking about today's meeting. No matter what, even if others support the entry of the Namikaze clan, his organization will stop it to the end. After all, the existence of his root organization is to prevent such things. For the stability of Konoha, Sarutobi, I will definitely stop you. Danzo secretly made up his mind. At this moment, the entire root tissue building suddenly began to shake violently. Danzo looked over in surprise and found that the ground and walls were all shaking. Could it be an earthquake? Or is there an enemy attack? Danzo is not sure whether this is a natural disaster or a man-made disaster. Although man-made disasters are generally impossible, after all, this is the base camp of Konoha. But if there is a ninja who can freely enter and exit Konoha like the 6th generation Hinata before him, then say not sure. Master Danzo. The members of the root organization quickly gathered towards Danzo. Danzo asked them if they noticed anything unusual, but no one answered. At this moment, the building shook violently. Immediately afterwards, strange changes began to occur. A building slowly broke open from the ground. Then the building continued to rise, and finally penetrated the root tissue. The building that broke out of the ground brought light to the originally dark and gloomy base of the root organization. As the moonlight fell, a boy in kimono stood on top of the wonderful building. Danzo's eyes first fell on the building. The shape of the building is very strange. It is the shape of two teenagers, arms around each other, laughing. At this time, Danzo noticed that one of the boys in this building was the boy in kimono above. Then, Danzo looked at the boy in kimono and his voice turned cold. Who are you? My name is Namikaze Sasuke, and I am here too. Rinnegan Sasuke stood on the building, overlooking Danzo and the members of the root organization around him. He calmly stated his purpose here: bring new life to the root organization, strengthen the root organization, and make the root organization a worthy join my sworn brothers organization. From today on, this root tissue is under my control. I want to build him into a truly strong organization, an organization full of love. Yes, his reincarnation I, Sasuke, came here precisely for the root tissue that he had stayed in and cultivated with great care, but it was not from this world, but from another world, filled with love. From this moment on, the root tissue of this world will usher in a new life. Shimura Danzo, your era is over, and next is my era, Uchiha Sasuke. Rinnegan Sasuke whispered in his mind. Danzo stared at the Rinnegan Sasuke above, his eyes gradually turning cold. He couldn't see this person's purpose, but he was sure that to him, this person was definitely an enemy rather than a friend. Danzo is still very confident in dealing with this person. After all, it is impossible to meet someone randomly. He is stronger than the woman he met before, right? The 6th generation Hinata was troubled, quite troubled, very troubled. Originally, as long as she applied the barrier technique, she wouldn't have to worry about someone stealing her photo of Naruto every day, but since she saw Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye, she is now extremely scared. Maybe one day, the photo of Naruto-kun she hid will be stolen by the other party. After all, that person is also Naruto-kun's chef. After thinking about it, she came up with an excellent idea. In the room, the bed was filled with photos of Naruto-kun's wonderful moments taken by the 6th generation Hinata these days. Then, there's the glue in the 6th Hokage's robe. Put it on, stick it on it, stick it on it. The 6th generation Hinata poured a little glue on the photo, and then glued it to the inside of the Hokage's robe. After a while, a 6th generation Hokage robe with Naruto's photos all over the inside was completed. The 6th generation Hinata looked at this new Hokage robe with satisfaction, which was processed to prevent theft, keep warm, and beautiful. Although she felt that if she went back wearing this dress, she would definitely be the one who made the dress. The old woman was beaten to death, but she can't control it so much now. Everything is to prevent Naruto-kun's photos from being stolen. The 6th generation Hinata had a meeting in the evening, but it was still early, so she could do some business first. That's right, it's another daily Naruto-kun photo exhibition. Today is the 7th day of living with Naruto-kun. For the 6th generation Hinata, this is another memorable photography exhibition. Pat 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 pat. After taking the photo, the 6th generation Hinata glued the photo to the Hokage's robe, but it felt like it was a bit out of place. The 6th generation Hinata was thinking about whether she should add a layer to the Hokage's robe. She didn't need to ask anyone else for this, she could still do this little thing herself. However, while doing needlework, the sixth generation Hinata suddenly remembered something. Does this count as being surrounded by many Naruto-kuns? The sixth generation Hinata lowered her head and looked at this special Hokage robe, and suddenly felt that maybe she should make a sandwich immediately first, so that at least she would not be easily discovered by Naruto-kun. In short, after dealing with the Hokage's robe, the sixth generation Hinata felt at ease and had time to think about the next thing. Tonight, the third Hokage will hold a meeting. For her, this is the beginning of changes in her relationship with Konoha here. According to her judgment, in the next meeting, although the families that are friendly to Naruto-kun and have a completely neutral attitude will agree to join, there will definitely be some families who will not agree. However, the sixth generation Hinata didn't care at all about the attitudes of these families. After all, the general trend was the general trend. However, starting tonight, Naruto-kun's surroundings should be a lot more lively. Whether it's to win over or to fight, they must take action against Naruto-kun, whom the Namikaze clan has put in plain sight. The sixth generation Hinata thought to herself, but was not worried about the changes that might happen next. After all, if you want to ascend to a high position, there will definitely be various disturbances, which Naruto-kun will definitely encounter. Of course, Naruto-kun must be strong enough. However, both Naruto-kun here and Naruto-kun over there seem a little weak. However, she has no way to help Naruto improve his strength, because she has reached the top level of strength by opening the reincarnation eye, so if she wants to use the same method to train Naruto, she will definitely not be able to do it. As for other ways, the sixth generation Hinata quickly remembered the information she learned from the Rinnegan Sasuke in the previous world. The matter of the sage body and the sage eyes. The Uzumaki clan and the Senju clan, the ancestors of Naruto, are the holders of the sage body, Asura, while the ancestors of the Uchiha clan are the holders of the sage eyes. Indra, both of them belong to the same lineage of immortals of the six paths. Therefore, the Uchiha clan who transplanted the immortal body can open the reincarnation eye, while the Uzumaki clan and the Senju clan cannot open the reincarnation eye after transplanting the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, but they can also use the transplanted immortal eye. Of course, Sasuke's Samsara eye is a bit special. His eyes did not open by themselves, but were transplanted. By improving the technology of reincarnation, Uchiha Madara was extracted from the earth, and then his eyes were dug out and transplanted. Basically, as long as Uchiha Madara is sealed in the form of reincarnation, the eyes can always exist. However, the eyes of Uchiha Madara who came out of the dirty soil actually only have the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Therefore, to grow into the Rinnegan, generally speaking, the cells of the first Hokage need to be transplanted. But Sasuke in their world has not transplanted the cells of the first Hokage. But after the eye transplantation, he and Naruto-kun drank a glass of blood-sworn wine and somehow opened the reincarnation eye. According to Mr. Orochimaru, Naruto-kun's physique seems to be somewhat similar to that of the first Hokage. There have been speculations that the fourth Hokage may be the illegitimate son of the first Hokage. Let's ignore these for now. The sixth generation Hinata thought that based on this idea, just find a pair of Rinnegan eyes for Naruto-kun and transplant them to help him become stronger. But, she doesn't know how to use the earth reincarnation, and Sasuke doesn't have the Rinnegan eye. The only one in their village who can use it is Orochimaru-sensei. As for this world, the sixth generation Hinata thinks it should be about the same, and the reincarnation eyes transplanted using the reincarnation of the dirty earth are also a bit subtle. It is necessary to ensure that the dirty earth creatures always exist and are still in a sealed state. Moreover, in order to open the Rinnegan eye, Sasuke must first equip the Rinnegan eye with Madara's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, which comes from the filthy soil of this world, and then drink a sip of Naruto-kun's blood to become the Rinnegan eye. No matter how you think about it, there will definitely be an incident where Naruto-kun and that person shared a pair of eyes. Therefore, this idea is not advisable and should be rejected. Deny it. However, the sixth generation Hinata thought about it and realized that she really couldn't use the dead Rinnegan, but didn't she still have a pair of living Rinnegans and fresh Rinnegans? The sixth generation Hinata looked thoughtfully in a certain direction and made a decision at the same time. Find a time to grab Pain's reincarnation eye and install it on Naruto-kun. After all, sharing a pair of eyes with Pain is better than sharing a pair of eyes with that man, right? Well, I decided happily like that. However, the eyes are power-ups, and the 6th generation Hinata felt that he still had to teach Naruto some other basic skills, such as color lure techniques, etc. This is a ninjutsu that can kill even a strong Kage-level person in an instant. It is also a ninjutsu that Naruto-kun of this world developed and is good at. Therefore, he must continue to improve and study hard, right? It's not a black car, it's a real Naruto-kun girl's car. Bigger, fiercer, whiter, and cuter. The 6th generation Hinata clenched her fists and said, "Action is worse than a heartbeat. From tonight, let her train Naruto-kun and seriously practice the ninjutsu that can kill Kage-level ninjas instantly." Dinner. On the table, there are 10 buckets of instant noodles of different styles, but they are different from the previous brands. Among them, Naruto ate 2 buckets, and the 6th generation Hinata ate 8 buckets. Even if the world line is different, the nature of human beings will not change. The stomach of Hinata Big Eater is still the same stomach. The 6th generation Hinata finished 8 buckets of instant noodles and felt that she should be quite full, so she slowly said, "Naruto-kun, I think becoming Hokage requires strong strength. I have a powerful and invincible ninjutsu. If you want to teach you." Naruto also finished 2 buckets of instant noodles at this time. Regarding Hinata's words, he thought for a while and said, "Yes, Hinata, you are right, but I want to practice on my own. If I don't understand, I will ask you." Even if it is Namikaze Naruto's memory experience, Naruto only intends to learn from it, rather than accepting it all and becoming another Namikaze Naruto. Although Naruto does not fully agree with the life of the protagonist in the book, he has a goal that Naruto recognizes, to become the Hokage that surpasses all Hokages. Among them, Naruto believed that the 6th generation Hinata was also included. "But as long as I don't understand something, I will learn from you, because if I want to become a Hokage that surpasses all Hokages, I must learn from more people, including you Hinata," Naruto said seriously. Judging from the amount of knowledge of ninjutsu, Namikaze Naruto is stronger and more comprehensive than the 6th generation Hinata. Therefore, for this aspect of learning alone, Naruto thought that it was enough for him to ponder through the fused memories. But when in doubt, you still need to ask. But at least, it's not needed at this stage. There was a moment of silence, when Naruto thought the other person was angry. The 6th generation Hinata's expression suddenly changed, revealing the emotion of an old mother. "I support you, Naruto-kun, keep this expression and posture unchanged for now, and let me take a picture of this touching and wonderful moment." After adding new reserves to her photo inventory, the 6th generation Hinata thought that at this time, as a qualified chef for Naruto-kun, she should put aside her selfishness and encourage Naruto-kun. "I understand, Naruto-kun, no matter in the morning or at night, when I'm sleeping, eating, going to the toilet or taking a shower, if you have any questions you don't understand, you can come and ask me." Just go to the toilet and take a shower. Naruto groaned slightly inwardly. Naruto flipped through the book on the bed, but his abilities did not change. At this time, he felt something in his heart and found that the content of the book had changed, and it became that of the Naruto he saw for the first time. Story. Perhaps because he had fought against Danzo today, Naruto deliberately reread the story about Danzo. "When I was young, due to temporary timidity, survival instinct, or perhaps being surprised and unable to react, I was not the first to say the last words, so I fell behind the 3rd generation of Hokage and failed to become Hokage. After that, even though he kept struggling, he still failed to become Hokage." For Naruto who wants to become Hokage, Danzo's story is undoubtedly a good warning. If you drop the chain at a critical moment, then no matter what opportunity you are given, you will not be able to grasp it. Danzo lacked many things, but the most critical thing was that he failed to seize the opportunities within his reach. However, Naruto saw some things that were a little incomprehensible from this story. Judging from the book, the story of Naruto and Danzo's actions undoubtedly caused many problems. It can be said that his existence undoubtedly plays a negative role in the progress of the world. Promote effect. However, this is from God's perspective, so what if this person is seen from other people's perspective? Naruto always felt awkward looking at this person's life. It's a habit to ask if you don't understand. In this regard, the 6th generation Hinata, as the Hokage, must have some opinions of his own. Hinata, oh, I'm taking a shower, come back later. The 6th generation Hinata, who was taking a shower, purred her face. Because she was the Hokage, she had a lot of things to do, so she took a quick shower. Go in, use the power of the reincarnated eye, give yourself a quick wash, and then come out. The whole process takes less than 5 minutes. However, this time, after taking a bath, the 6th generation Hinata was about to get out of the bathtub when she heard Naruto shouting, Hinata. Oh, I'm taking a bath, come back later. The 6th generation Hinata's eyes glowed blue while he was thinking in his mind. Naruto-kun came to me suddenly. Is there something wrong with? Well, as I said before, you can come in when you are taking a bath. Children drive big cars. That's the reason. Then, the 6th generation Hinata continued to lie in the bathtub. After soaking for an hour, the 6th generation Hinata felt a little dizzy. Why don't Naruto-kun come in and drive the big car? Surely, that kind of thing would only happen in the intimacy paradise. Wait a moment, maybe in another 10 minutes, Naruto-kun will get his driver's license. After soaking for another 10 minutes, the 6th generation Hinata felt that her vision was starting to blur. Sure enough, only someone like Jiraiya-sama would write about that kind of thing in a book. Wait, maybe in 10 minutes, Naruto-kun's driver's license will be delivered to his home. So, amid a burst of onomatopoeia, the 6th generation Hinata, who had been taking a bath for an hour and a half, said something like she was in a bad state, as if she would fall down at any time, and her head was dizzy. It was obvious that she had taken a bath too much, coming out of the bathroom with long-lasting aftereffects. Sure enough, if you are not old enough, you cannot get a driver's license. The 6th generation Hinata thought. This should be the reason why Jiraiya-sama is still single despite his age. His book really cannot be trusted. Naruto had been waiting in the hall for a long time. When he saw the 6th generation Hinata coming out, he was about to ask, but seeing her look, he hesitated and asked, Hinata, are you okay? It's okay, I was practicing water escape, it took me a while. Naruto nodded and thought to himself, it was indeed the Hokage who was practicing even during bathing time. Sure enough, it was right not to directly interrupt her practice just now. The 6th generation Hinata rested for a while and recovered before asking. Naruto-kun, did you come to me just now for something? Well, I want to ask Hinata, do you know Danzo? The 6th generation Hinata nodded. I do know what Shimura Danzo said. Then do you think this person is suitable to be Hokage? Although Naruto thinks that Danzo is only a little bit away from the Hokage, almost as far away as the fingertips of the universe, but he also feels that this person does not seem to have a smooth life and misses opportunities, but in fact he has a lot of troubles. A very powerful feeling. However, no matter which idea he had, Naruto felt that the main thing he wanted to know about him was whether, in the opinion of 6th generation Hinata, he had the ability to be Hokage. Hearing this, the 6th generation Hinata blinked his eyes and said, Danzo. This person is still very powerful. He has always let the 3rd Hokage take the blame. He is definitely more suitable to be Hokage than the original 3rd Hokage. It is said that the 2nd generation Hokage used the most unsuitable method to choose a Hokage and chose a Hokage least suitable to be a Hokage. Although Naruto had already guessed that the 6th generation Hinata would have a high opinion of Hokage, but he never expected that it would be such an unexpected thing when he opened his mouth. Let the 3rd Hokage take the blame. Wasn't he taking the blame? And the 2nd generation Hokage? Isn't the Hokage the one who protects the village? If that's the case, shouldn't it be the right thing to cut off the queen to protect the villagers? Naruto still agreed with this point of view. No matter what kind of Hokage he wanted to be, the one who risked his life to protect the village like his father would definitely be an excellent Hokage. After Naruto asked this question, the 6th generation Hinata looked confused. Naruto-kun, I think you don't quite understand the profession and tasks of ninjas. When Naruto heard this, he showed a puzzled expression, and at this time, the 6th generation Hinata continued. It is true that the Hokage exists to protect the villagers, but among the duties of a ninja, it is the professional duty of the Shadow's Guard. In other words, the 2nd Hokage at that time was surrounded by ninjas who were able to sacrifice their lives for Hokage. What the second Hokage did was to force them to give up their mission in order to protect their companions. I remember there was a man named Hatake White Fang in the village. In order to protect his companions, he gave up his mission and caused great harm to the village. In terms of losses, the results are almost the same on both sides. These people gave up their mission to protect the second Hokage and allowed the second Hokage to turn around and die. This is equivalent to losing a Hokage to the village. Quote. This logic seems to make sense. Naruto found that he surprisingly didn't know how to refute. So it's strange. He is obviously the Hokage's bodyguard, but he doesn't protect the Hokage. Then, although the second generation Hokage's judgment is to let the person who has the same will as the Hokage to protect the villagers choose to be the Hokage, but in fact, judging from the outcome of the matter, he actually gave up the mission of protecting Hokage and ran away on his own as a mission failure. I said I was going to protect the Hokage's bodyguard after the end of the war, but I didn't really go to protect the Hokage after the war. Isn't there something wrong with this? The sixth generation Hinata thought for a while and then stretched out her right hand. Naruto-kun, I want to slap you now. You can dodge it or not. If you dodge it, I will destroy Konoha. If you don't hide away, I will kill you. Will you hide away at this time or not? Naruto shook his head and said, I don't know, but I should be able to avoid it. Now Naruto feels that he has not yet reached the consciousness to sacrifice himself without reservation for the village. Yes, this is the judgment of normal people, and normally, Hokage is also a human being. The important reason why Hokage can become Hokage is because he has the top or even the strongest strength in the village, so, why is it necessary to become Hokage? As a benchmark, do you have the consciousness to sacrifice people for the sake of the village? Quote. Indeed, Naruto realized at this time that he had fallen into a Hokage pit of the will of fire flow again. The Hokage protects the villagers, but when did protecting the villagers equals having to die for the village? Naruto suddenly asked. Then what do you think you would do if it were you at that time? You can't just do whatever the sixth generation Hinata says. Since she thinks it's wrong, she should have the right idea. Let me see. The sixth generation Hinata thought for a while and then said, Hokage, you go first, you are the hope of the village, leave the rest to us, if you don't leave I will commit suicide. Just threaten the second Hokage like this to complete the mission. Since I am the guardian of the Hokage, excluding special circumstances, my responsibility must be to try my best to ensure that the Hokage cannot die unless I die. It is not that I will do what the Hokage says. I am the guardian of the Hokage, not the Hokage's fool. If every one of the Hokage guards runs away first when they are in danger and lets the Hokage protect them, then what is the use of the Hokage guards? The same goes for Naruto. Indeed, there are times when Naruto has to fight, but Naruto's sacrifice should not be wasted on a few random people, but the situation of the entire village must be taken into consideration. For example, the second Hokage ran to die to protect a dozen people. His death was in vain, but the fourth Hokage ran to die to protect a village of people. His death was very meaningful. It can be said that these two, the difference between them is still huge. In fact, what the sixth generation Hinata wanted to say was that the fourth Hokage's death was in vain. However, considering that the fourth Hokage was Naruto-kun's father, he still gave Naruto-kun a reason to stuff the 9 tails, so she gave him some extra points. When the sixth generation Hinata said this, he said seriously, listen, Naruto-kun, before a ninja completes a task, it is also very important to judge the difficulty of the task. Whether you have the strength to complete the task, you must first have this point. Judgments based. Not everyone has good luck, and the ninjas who survive may not all have good luck, and most of them will definitely be able to take on tasks based on their own strength. This is true even on the battlefield. I think a ninja who has no strength but insists on taking on a mission and fails the mission is 100 times worse than a ninja who abandons the mission for his companions. When Naruto heard this, he subconsciously thought of himself in the book, and suddenly felt a little guilty. It seemed that he might have become a ninja who was 100 times as bad as the scum that the sixth generation Hinata said. If it's not a task that you have to do, don't think about the task that you can't do. A ninja who takes on the task of protecting Naruto but can't even make the decision to risk his life to protect Naruto is 100 times worse than a scumbag ninja. It's not an exaggeration. and the second Hokage's method is to turn a ninja who was originally decisive and able to make reasonable judgments into a ninja like this garbage. Since it has been decided that someone wants to sever the queen, then he should be allowed to sever the queen. This is the judgment of a qualified Hokage. If every ninja has to push things to the Hokage when encountering danger, then it must be done whatever other ninjas do, just ask the Hokage to finish everything. The Hokage is not the mother of the village ninjas. The other ninjas should do what they should do. They should do their own things. If a ninja can't even do the tasks he accepts well, he is still a ninja. He should go home and farm as soon as possible. Quote, perhaps because he had been a Hokage and had seen many such ninjas, the sixth generation's voice was filled with resentment. Naruto listened, somewhat half understood. In short, according to what the sixth generation Hinata meant, Hokage is actually not a profession that gives away people's lives, but should be a profession that occasionally has to be stubborn, unless it is necessary to stand up. Give away the head, otherwise you will have to live in peace. This is very different from the will of fire. The will of fire is like harvesting leeks. Once a batch is cut, another batch will grow. If the old leeks are harvested, new ones will soon come out to replace them. The sixth generation of Hinata's snake will is like a pig farm. The fattened pigs are killed directly. However, some pigs are killed in advance if they are not fattened to prevent them from wasting food, and the remaining pigs are it is to keep fattening, and then kill them after they have grown fat. In other words, do you want to be a leek Hokage or a fat pig Hokage? Naruto was thoughtful. It feels like no matter where you are, there is a bit of a trap for Yazi, so there is no option for him not to die. However, this is also a necessary choice experience for Naruto to find the way of Hokage that suits him, but he does not need to solve it now. What he wants to know now is about Danzo. So, what about Danzo? Why do you think he is suitable to be Hokage, and why do you often pass the blame to the third Hokage? After hearing this, the sixth generation Hinata thought for a while and asked, let's put aside why he is suitable to be Hokage. Naruto-kun, why do you think he often takes the blame? Naruto thought about it, and actually he didn't mind telling the sixth generation Hinata about the things in the book, but he couldn't talk about the things in the book. After all, the things involved in it were a bit hard to explain. Actually, I know a little bit about the future of this world. Naruto told what he had read about Danzo's life in the book. Then the sixth generation Hinata listened and showed a surprised expression. I see, no wonder Naruto-kun thinks so, but Naruto-kun, you think so because you know all of this. People of information. Let me ask you, in the future you're talking about, after Danzo does what you're talking about, do you think other people will think it's who did it without them knowing? A flash of inspiration flashed in Naruto's mind, and he finally discovered his blind spot, it's the third Hokage. Indeed, someone like him who knows all the information will definitely think that Danzo did these things. But others don't know. Who teamed up with the Rain Ninja Village to encircle and annihilate the Akatsuki organization? It's Danzo. It's the root tissue. But how could Pain and the others know so much? They only knew that it was Konoha's order. Who is the boss of Konoha? That's right, it's the third Hokage. Who caused the annihilation of the Uchiha clan? It started when Danzo stabbed Shisui in the back, and the third Hokage was actually a stability maintenance faction. But Danzo represents Konoha, who is the boss of Konoha. That's right, it's the third Hokage again. There are others, like who planned the human experiments. Orochimaru. No, it's Danzo. But why was Danzo's Sharingan hand transplanted with the cells of the first Hokage, but there was nothing wrong with Orochimaru as the person behind it? Because everyone only knows that Orochimaru is doing human experiments. This time it was not the third Hokage who took the blame, but Orochimaru. Although it sounds like these things can only be done with the hint of the third Hokage, but if it is really the hint of the third Hokage, then he must not be pleased with this kind of thing. He is the Hokage of Konoha. Whenever anything happens in Konoha, he will definitely be responsible. For example, as long as Naruto-kun's life is not good, Naruto-kun has not received a good education, he is crooked, etc., no matter what he does or not, as long as he does not do well, he will definitely be blamed. After all, not all Konoha villagers respect Naruto that much, and it is impossible for all villagers to respect Naruto all the time. The same goes for everything else. So, Naruto himself is in a position where he can easily be blamed, so he often needs to find someone to take the blame. And I think Danzo is very suitable for this position because he never takes the blame for his actions in his life. He is very smart when doing things. He immediately finds someone to take the blame before he starts. As long as he says he is acting for Konoha, and the third Hokage does not ban his position, he will definitely be able to pass the blame to the third Hokage. And even if the third Hokage finally bans his position, the third Hokage will still be blamed. It can be said that his actions can 100% pass the blame to the third Hokage, so is this Danzo not a very suitable person to be the Hokage? Quote, "The most common and effective way for an organization to resolve conflicts is to find someone to take the blame when something goes wrong. When something goes wrong, the biggest reason why the organization is in chaos is that everyone wants to blame others, but there is no one who can blame them. That person, 90.00% of normal people, including myself, will not think of taking the blame when something goes wrong. Finding the right person to take the blame is what a qualified Hokage should do. After all, as Hokage, if something goes wrong, if you can't find someone to take the blame, you will have to take the blame." Quote. After hearing this, Naruto fell into deep thought. Originally, I wanted to blame the third Hokage for his own life. Although he may not necessarily be fully responsible, he must bear part of the blame. After all, he is also the son of the Hokage, and the nine-tailed Jinchuriki can be cultivated a little. It's just that he feels that his thoughts may be a bit negative, a bit extreme, and a bit blaming, which is not very good. But now it seems that maybe such thoughts exactly reflect the responsibilities and obligations that the third Hokage should have as Hokage. And the importance, taking the blame. Next time, he should learn from Danzo and blame the third Hokage for getting into trouble. For example, breaking the statue of Hokage and then saying that the old one has traces of it is not good for Konoha's dignity. He acts for the good of Konoha, so that the third Hokage cannot openly accuse him too much, and if the third Hokage doesn't accuse him, the third Hokage will take the blame for being a spoiled brat. It's like going to a women's bathhouse to learn seduction techniques. You can also use the third Hokage as an excuse, saying that you saw the third Hokage doing the same thing, and you think this is the direction in which you can work hard to become a Hokage, and then you learn from it. In this way, first of all, the third Hokage must be able to take the blame again. In the future, he should learn more from Danzo. When he does bad things, he should shout slogans for Konoha. Anyway, if he doesn't blame others, others will blame him. Speaking of which, there was one thing that he could still take the blame for. Like what he is going to do next. Although he did the right thing to win over the people he wanted to win over, on the other hand, he would definitely offend others. At this time, if he could throw the blame to the third Hokage, wouldn't he? Moreover, if he wants to become Hokage in the future, he will definitely not be able to continue to take the blame for others like the third Hokage, who has always been blamed by Danzo. Then he will have to find some people who can help him take the blame. As for finding who, he has no suitable candidate in mind for the time being. Naruto thought in his mind. In this way, Naruto has more things to do on the road to becoming Hokage. Win over people who support you, become stronger, and find someone to take the blame for. At this time, Naruto subconsciously looked at the 6th generation Hinata. She is also the Hokage. I wonder if she is the one taking the blame or the one passing the blame. When the 6th generation Hinata talked about finding someone to take the blame for the Hokage, her eyes flickered a little. When Naruto looked over at this moment, she felt a little nervous. Is it possible that Naruto-kun knows about my past scapegoating? No, I'm so well hidden that Naruto-kun won't be able to find out. She subconsciously recalled the incident in her original world where she passed the blame to that man. A certain day of a certain year. The 6th generation Hinata had just finished her busy work as Hokage and was doing business in Naruto's room. As for her so-called business, it must be those. At this time, an accident happened. The door of the room opened, and Naruto-kun's figure appeared in front of him. He looked straight at his things filled with a cloth bag, and then looked at the 6th generation Hinata who was taking pictures, and slowly a question mark was placed. Hinata, what are you doing in my room? After seconds of hesitation, the 6th generation Hinata thought for a moment and decided not to hide anything. and told the truth of the matter honestly. Naruto-kun, actually, you and me have such a good relationship with Sasuke, so I asked him how I could have such a good relationship with you, and he told me just do this. Well, the truth is sometimes true when everyone else believes it. After that, something like, brother-in-law, I don't know. This is the first time I've heard of that kind of thing. If you don't believe me, search my room. I'm innocent. And similar to the large number of photos of the Namikaze boy found from the room of a certain boy in the Uchiha clan, as well as clothes, used things, etc. This kind of thing has nothing to do with her 6th generation Hinata. No. She really doesn't know anything. She is innocent. These things have nothing to do with her. Things like this still happen quite a lot. The memory ends. Seeing that Naruto did not notice these things, the 6th generation Hinata couldn't help but sigh. As expected, as a Hokage, I am first class. After all, she found someone who could take the blame for her. Naruto gave her a strange look. This was the first time he saw the 6th generation Hinata boasting about herself so inflatedly. However, although it was strange, he didn't think much about it. Today I have gained another achievement on my way to becoming Hokage. Naruto thought happily. Although there seems to be something wrong with what he harvested, Namikaze Naruto's memory is still that of an old Yinbi anyway. At best, it is strange to the extent that it makes him go from being a top Lao Yinbi to being a top Lao Yinbi. That's all. I'm going to rest first, Hinata. Well, good night, Naruto-kun. The 6th generation Hinata waved her hand and watched Naruto enter the room, blue light flashing in her eyes. It seems a little lively outside. This chakra, it seems that Sasuke is doing something. After thinking about it, the 6th generation Hinata decided to go out and take a look, and there might be unexpected gains. Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye looked coldly at Danzo and the members of the root organization who were like ants on the ground. Then, he drew the Kusanagi sword. One knife. Rinnegan Sasuke said in a low voice. At this moment, Danzo's left hand was cut off. Danzo made a slight muffled sound with shock in his eyes. What happened and he had no idea. Lord Danzo. People from the root organization quickly came over to protect him. At this time, Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye made a move to put away his sword. Even if you don't use these eyes, the gap between you and me is still too big. Shimura Danzo, I know you will not be convinced, and you are not aware of the power gap between you and me, so I give you a chance. From now on, I will stand still and not move even half a step. Just use the ninjutsu you are good at. If you can let me take a step back, then I will leave temporarily and come back in a month. Rinnegan Sasuke said slowly. When Danzo heard this, not only did he not feel happy, but his heart sank. Not to mention that he didn't even know how he was hit by the sword just now, but just because of Rinnegan Sasuke's confident attitude at the moment, Danzo knew that he was not afraid of any tricks Danzo could use. However, Danzo could not retreat just like that. Since you gave me a chance, I will make you regret it. Danzo thought coldly in his heart. The opponent was so arrogant that it was possible for him to defeat him. Wind. Yes, Danzo-sama. Shanfang knew what he was doing, formed a seal with his hands, and was about to perform the secret technique of the Yamanaka family to forcibly capture the mind of Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye. At the same time, Danzo quietly issued orders and instructions for members of the root organization to be on alert. No matter what kind of ninjutsu attack it is, there will definitely be traces to follow. Whether it can be blocked is another matter, but at least you must first determine what ninjutsu it is. It can be said that regardless of whether Shanfang's attack is effective or not, there is no doubt that Danzo can use this opportunity to obtain information about his ninjutsu. But at this moment, Rinnegan Sasuke made a gesture of swinging his sword again. One knife. A sword slashed out from nowhere left a wound on Shanfang's chest. Shanfang slowly fell to the ground and made a reluctant voice, Danzo. Sir. Upon seeing this, Danzo's expression grew colder, and his heart became even more solemn. Out of sight, still out of sight. What exactly was the attack? Why couldn't he see even a tiny bit? Is that space-time ninjutsu? Or some kind of invisible ninjutsu? Or maybe the sword energy has become invisible? Danzo looked at the other members of the root organization. They also looked confused, obviously not knowing what kind of ninjutsu this was. Danzo knew that if he wanted to defeat this man, he must at least know the capabilities of his ninjutsu. If you continue fighting without even knowing his ninjutsu abilities, you have no chance of winning. The best way to get the answer is to fill it with numbers. Go up and defeat him. Following Danzo's order, members of the Root organization swarmed forward. At this time, Sasuke, the reincarnation eye, once again made a gesture to draw his sword, one sword. Then, as before, his sword was clearly not out of its sheath, but these Root-organized ninjas were still injured by the invisible attack. Judging from the traces of the attack, it looked like a slash from a weapon, but it was unclear where the attack came from. Therefore, Danzo guessed that this was some kind of time and space ninjutsu that injured these people by diverting the sword swung by Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye. Moreover, after more and more victims appeared, Danzo gradually saw some patterns of this ability. The greatest possibility of this ninjutsu is to attack 4 times at the same time. Moreover, these 4 attacks have no distance or time limit. It could also be that this distance has not yet reached the limit of his distance. While Danzo was analyzing the unknown ninjutsu of Rinnegan Sasuke, he felt more and more desperate. Although on the surface, he already knew part of the ability of this ninjutsu, but because he could not see the attack of this ninjutsu, most of his speculations could only be used for evasion, and he did not see a trace of victory at all. Hope. The most important thing is that the Rinnegan Sasuke's attacks don't have any cooldown, so he can attack whenever he wants. As the last member of the Root organization fell, Danzo knew that this was his last chance. Danzo jumped up and wanted to hug the Rinnegan Sasuke from behind. Although he had only started to study this ninjutsu in the past few days, but, now, he had to use this ninjutsu. Even if it is only in the research stage, the power that this ninjutsu can exert is still considerable. As long as it is released, Danzo believes that he will be able to kill Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye. At this time, the Rinnegan Sasuke was just in a sword-swinging posture, so in Danzo's view, he was defenseless. Although other members of the Root organization have fallen, they have created this best opportunity for themselves. Die with me, you fool who invaded Konoha. Danzo shouted in his mind. At this moment, Rinnegan Sasuke stretched out his right hand and whispered, Shinra Tensei. The repulsive force exploded, and the invisible ninjutsu pushed Danzo out. After being pushed out, Danzo's eyes first flashed with confusion, and finally deep despair. At the same time, Sasuke made a gesture of swinging his sword, one sword. An unknown attack and a ninjutsu came from nowhere, piercing Danzo's feet and the other hand. Although the other hands and feet were not chopped off, Danzo could no longer stand still and fell to the ground. Blood flowed from the wound. Although he is not dead yet, such an injury may not be able to kill him as long as he is rescued in time, but at this moment, Danzo feels that he will never forget the despair that Rinnegan Sasuke brought to him. This is an overwhelming power gap. This boy is so powerful at such a young age. Is this the strength of the Namikaze clan? Both this boy and that girl are terrifyingly strong. He would actually want to fight against such a monster family. Danzo thought with some depression in his heart. At this moment, Rinnegan Sasuke raised his sword and was about to swing the sword down to kill Danzo completely. One knife. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared next to Danzo and took him away. This figure was very fast, and the Samsara Eye Sasuke's current attitude was relatively casual. Therefore, although the Samsara Eye Sasuke noticed the arrival of this figure, he still let the opponent succeed. Shisui put Danzo aside and looked at Rinnegan Sasuke. He was quite shocked at the moment. He didn't expect that the root tissue of Konoha would be destroyed by a boy who didn't know where he came from. And it was destroyed with this absolutely invincible crushing posture. Shisui looked at the eyes of Sasuke's Rinnegan eyes. He had memories of those eyes. They were the Rinnegan eyes, one of the 3 major pupil techniques, the eyes used by the legendary sage of 6 paths. Who are you? Sasuke, the reincarnation eye, looked at Shisui with the same complicated expression. If he could, then he definitely didn't want to take action against this person, because this person was his teacher Uchiha Shisui. However, Rinnegan Sasuke also knew that he and the teacher he knew well were not the same person after all. Even in terms of strength alone, there is a world of difference between the two. Although I could vaguely see the prototype of teacher Shisui's strength, it was too far behind. If it was his teacher, then in the moment just now, if Sasuke was not concentrating, it would be difficult for him to even notice him approaching. But as Shisui approached, even though Rinnegan Sasuke was in a relaxed state, he was still discovered. This is the strength gap between the two. After all, his teacher's teleportation technique was extremely superb. Pity. Sasuke, the reincarnation eye, sighed with emotion. If possible, then I don't want to fight with you. However, all obstacles that block my way forward must be removed. One knife. As soon as he finished speaking, Shisui's eyes changed, and his eyes became the shape of the Mangekyo Sharingan. At this moment, all he could think of to fight against this ninja was other gods. Except for other gods, even with a ninjutsu as powerful as Susanoo, Shisui had a hunch that he might not be able to compete with this person. At least, it was impossible to knock down so many members of the root organization using only Susanoo's Shisui. It's not that Susanoo is not strong enough, but it consumes too much and puts a lot of burden on the eyes. Even if the damage to the eyes is ignored, it is difficult to continue fighting with such ninjutsu. If Susanoo could really activate Musou, then the Uchiha clan would not have been taught how to behave by the Senju clan. What Shisui saw when he came here, the invisible attack, and the strangely shaped statue that penetrated the root organization's base, all proved without exception that even with Susanoo, this was not something that could be easily done. Just defeat the opponent. There is no doubt that Susanoo cannot be used to fight a protracted war. Of course, even though Shisui found it difficult to fight, he thought he would be the winner in the end. However, this is Konoha, and fighting would cause too much damage to Konoha, so it is better to use ninjutsu that will cause less damage. As for other gods, although if used here, the Uchiha clan cannot be stopped, but if not used here, Konoha will be more dangerous. After all, using Susanoo, he cannot guarantee that this ninja will be killed. Some other god implants the will to commit suicide. Shisui looked at Rinnegan Sasuke, and then used Betsu Tenjin. Other gods are known as the most powerful illusions and can implant the will they want into others. And here, Shisui used a method of killing, implanting the will of suicide into the target. In this way, no matter how strong the target's defense means or how powerful the ability is, unless this effect can be broken, the other party will continue to commit suicide like this until it is completely dead, because this is the will implanted in the other party. It is precisely because of such terrifying effects that other gods are called the strongest illusion. However, the Rinnegan Sasuke did not move at all. He just looked at Shisui calmly and said, "In the final analysis, the pupil technique of the Mangekyo Sharingan still needs to be performed through the eyes. That is, even the strongest Genjutsu Baidenjin, you have to look at the target of the spell before you can cast it. And now, although you are watching me cast the other gods, you actually didn't really see me casting the other gods." Shisui looked ugly. He didn't know what happened. Why would the other party know about his other gods' abilities? Did his release of other gods fail? No, although Shisui didn't know why the other party knew that he was a different god, he was sure that his other god was used successfully. At least, his 3-year cooldown has come up. In other words, his other god has succeeded, but the target of the infliction is not Sasuke with the Samsara Eye, but someone else. However, the strange thing is that if this is really the case, then after Shisui releases the other gods, whoever is controlled will commit suicide immediately. It's impossible for that object to be invisible even in blood, right? Once the ninja dies, the ninjutsu becomes ineffective. But now, it seems as if the effects of other gods' ninjutsu have been completely lost. What is the problem? Shisui was a little confused. He finally made a decision and used another god. But the result was not as effective as he imagined. This made Shisui feel that he had lost million. The 3-year cooling off period resulted in unknown suicide. Sasuke looked at him calmly. The Mangekyo Sharingan has the eye skills of the Mangekyo Sharingan, and the Rinnegan also has the eye skills of the Rinnegan. The eye technique he awakened from the reincarnation eyes of Uchiha Madara, who was reincarnated in the Dirty Land, is called the Rinbana Prison. This Samsara Eye technique can turn the shadow of Samsara Eye Sasuke into an entity for fighting, and can be split into up to 4. Not only that, unless special circumstances occur, even the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan or Byakugan cannot see the shape of the split shadow clearly. There are only 2 special cases that Sasuke has come into contact with, one is Pain who has the Samsara Eye, and the other is the woman with the Samsara Eye. Not only that, Shadow also possesses extremely powerful defense. This ninjutsu can be used both for attack and defense. It can be said to be a nearly perfect Samsara Eye technique. Of course, he's not invulnerable. This ninjutsu actually has some shortcomings. It's like a span of control, and it's like a time limit. However, even with these two restrictions, the attack by the members of the root organization just now obviously did not allow his ninjutsu to reach the usage time limit. At this moment, his 4 shadows were within range, blocking Shisui's other gods for him. After being implanted with the will to commit suicide, although the shadow continued to resist and persisted for a while, he eventually returned to the shadow of Sasuke, the reincarnation eye. For the shadow, the way to commit suicide is to return to the shadow of Sasuke, the reincarnation eye. For Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye, he only lost his shadow in a short period of time, and then when the time comes, he can recondensate a new shadow, and the new shadow will not be affected by other gods before. Influence. Of course, this does not mean that Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye will definitely be safe in the battle just now. In fact, if Shisui hadn't talked a lot and would have said, "Better God XX," to him before releasing the other gods, it is very likely that Sasuke with the Samsara Eye would not have had time to let his 4 split shadow people. They stood in a row, standing between him and Shisui, completely blocking Shisui's view of other gods. So, if you don't have the strength, it's better not to talk so much, and just sneak attack and assassinate the opponent honestly, wouldn't it be nice? Samsara Eye Sasuke thought emotionally. So, next, although Shisui's one eye Baidenjin lost its effect, only the other eye Baidenjin remained. But the effect of the other god in his other eye is only stronger than that of the other eye just now, not to mention that this one is still a single target with lock-on aiming. Sasuke, with the Rinnegan eye, squatted half-crouched, and arcs of electricity gradually flashed all over his body. Sure enough, after Shisui was momentarily disappointed, he decided to use this eye's other gods. Although Shisui's other god cannot perform a range of will distortions like the eye just now, the other god with this eye has the power to directly select the target. Originally, he planned to use a 2-eyed god, one eye to influence the thinking of the Uchiha clan, and the other eye to directly distort the will of the clan leader, thereby preventing the conflict between the Uchiha clan and Konoha from breaking out. But now, with one eye using another god, he no longer needs to keep the other eye. But, at this moment, the Samsara Eye Sasuke's whole body flashed with lightning, and he used the Thunder Attribute Chakra to activate his cells and increase his speed. He appeared in front of Shisui in an instant, and then he pulled out the Kusanagi sword and aimed it at Shisui and was about to use it. The other god's eye pierced hard. Perhaps, in terms of the strength of the teleportation technique, even this Shisui would not lose much to Sasuke. However, after Shisui used the other gods, his Mangekyo Sharingan suffered a considerable burden, which prevented him from adjusting. It is this small gap that determines the outcome of both sides. After stabbing, Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye pulled out the Kusanagi sword and put it back into its sheath, his expression still very indifferent. Now that we know that Shisui has another god, how can we wait for Shisui to recover and use another god? Ah, Shisui's other eye was destroyed. He took a few steps back, then staggered and half knelt on the ground. Shisui covered the pierced eye with his hand. He knew that at this moment, it was almost impossible for him to do what he had thought before, killing Sasuke with the Samsara Eye without causing too much damage to Konoha. Death is possible. However, as of now, he can't care too much. Of the 2 pupil techniques of the Mangekyo Sharingan, one was used and the other was useless. He could only use the 3rd pupil technique and fight regardless of the consequences. Susanoo. Although with the strength shown by Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye, Shisui felt that this battle might put a huge burden on his eyes, but for Konoha. For Konoha, I will defeat you here. The diffused chakra gradually enveloped Shisui. Shisui covered the pierced eye and looked at Sasuke, the Rinnegan eye. Although Susanoo could not kill the Rinnegan Sasuke as quickly as the other 2 ninjutsu, Shisui still had the confidence to use this ninjutsu to knock down the Rinnegan. Who do you think? Defeat. At the same time that Rinnegan Sasuke asked questions, huge chakra emerged from him. The volume of chakra soon exceeded Shisui's Susanoo, and it expanded at an extremely fast speed. Soon, a huge chakra giant appeared in front of Shisui. When Sasuke saw Shisui using Susanoo, he subconsciously summoned his complete Susanoo. The huge, complete Susanoo grabbed Shisui's Susanoo and Shisui with one hand, and then stretched out his other hand to exert force. Shisui looked stunned, confused, and a little horrified as he looked at the huge Susanoo. This is Susanoo. Are you also from the Uchiha clan? Under the moonlight, Shisui noticed that Sasuke's eyes actually had a Magatama similar to the Sharingan. Is the Samsara eye above the Mangekyo Sharingan? Such a thought flashed through his mind. However, Rinnegan Sasuke did not answer his intention. He looked at Shisui and said, "Crack it open for me." With a tearing sound, Shisui's Susanoo was torn in half. Shisui fell to the ground helplessly. Samsara's eyes glanced at the fallen root organization people, then glanced at a certain hut, and then quickly looked back at the girl in the sky. "Namikaze Hinata, this is Mr. Madara's will, you'd better not stop me." After a long time, the third Hokage didn't wait for Danzo or Shisui to come over. He asked without doubt, "Is there no news about Danzo yet?" He couldn't help but ask Shikaku next to him. Shikaku was also very surprised when he heard this. Although Danzo and the third Hokage didn't deal with it, and this time he was crushed by the sixth generation, he was not such a rude person. Shikaku shook his head, and the third Hokage suddenly felt his heart sink. Danzo could forget it, but Shisui was not such a rude person, and he didn't even come. This matter can be said to be a big problem. Is it the Uchiha clan? The third Hokage asked without hesitation. His first reaction was the Uchiha clan who could do this. However, he was quickly denied by Shikaku. It can't be the Uchiha clan. At least, I don't think the Uchiha clan can have enough combat power to directly wipe out the root organization without being able to convey the message. What's more, we have always been aware of their whereabouts. The third Hokage nodded slightly. Indeed, and now that the Uchiha clan leader is also present, it will be even more difficult to do this. I am afraid it is not them. The third Hokage thought for a while. This support must be provided, but who should be sent to support it? Suddenly, the third Hokage remembered that the Konoha ninja family was here this time, so he might as well entrust this task to them. So, the third Hokage asked people to come in. When these ninja families came in, they thought they were going to have a meeting. But after listening to what the third Hokage said, they all fell silent. The third Hokage wants them to take on this mission whose danger level is unclear, but it will definitely not be an easy task. Most of the ninja families were silent, or at least unwilling to take the initiative to speak. This mission will definitely require the dispatch of excellent ninjas, and how many excellent ninjas can a family have? If the task level and reward could be clarified, they could consider it. However, if the task level and reward were not clarified, they might be asked to do it, but they would not take the initiative. Chapter 51. Although the safety of the village is very important, they do not have such a high level of ideological consciousness after all. The third Hokage looked at Fugaku, but Fugaku lowered his head. The third Hokage sighed inwardly. In his own opinion, the Uchiha clan was actually the most suitable to stand out. After all, even if they can't defeat the Uchiha clan's Sharingan, the many ninjutsu mastered by the Sharingan can still give them considerable survival skills. At the same time, even if the Uchiha clan, which is outside the village, suffers losses, it will not affect the operation of Konoha. But obviously, with their current relationship with the Uchiha clan, it would be difficult for them to do such a thing. In addition to Uchiha, the third Hokage actually has another suitable candidate, or a more suitable candidate. Only, the third Hokage looked at Hinata Hinashi. Although Hinata Hazu was a little moved, he did not express his position immediately. This is the gap that exists between the Hyuga clan and the third Hokage. It has been in this state since the third Hokage asked their clan to solve the incident in Kumo Ninja Village by themselves. It wasn't quite hostile, but it wasn't that enthusiastic either. But this time, it was beyond the expectations of the third Hokage. Hinata and Hazashi hesitated for a while, but agreed. Lord Hokage, let us, the Hyuga clan, do the support task. Hinata Hazu said this, firstly, because he had the white eyes, a sharp weapon of investigation, as a source of confidence, and secondly, he wanted to express his position. After all, they are different from the Uchiha clan. They are not so naive and need to rely on the village to exist. even if he and his family were dissatisfied with what happened back then, their attitude was not that bad. You still have to take a stand. The third Hokage naturally agreed to this matter. However, he did not blame all this matter on the Hyuga clan, but gave this task to 3 good detectives, Hinata, Inuzuka and Aburame. Soon, Chunin from the 3 clans who were good at reconnaissance rushed to the root organization's base. At the same time, the surrounding area was cordoned off by the third Hokage and his people. Fortunately, the place where the root tissue is located is an uninhabited area. The third Hokage looked at the base of the root organization. He had also tried to use the telescope technique for reconnaissance before, but it was quickly cracked. However, in the short period of time when the ninjutsu was effective, he also saw unexpected but important information. Reincarnation Eye. Shikaku, where did that person come from? It is rumored that the Eyes of Six Paths Sage, the founder of ninjas, the third Hokage, still has some understanding of this history. However, he didn't know exactly what the reincarnation eye was capable of, but it was one of the 3 major pupil techniques, and it was the eyes of the legendary Sage of Six Paths, so it was definitely not weak. I don't know, but I have a guess. Shikaku thought of a possibility, a relatively bold possibility. However, if this possibility is true, then this matter may be quite difficult. What guess? The third Hokage asked curiously. This person may be related to the person who released the 9 tails. When the third Hokage heard this, his eyes flashed fiercely. When the 9 tails attacked the village, not only a Hokage and a 9 tails Jinchuriki died in the village, but also a bunch of ninjas and villagers. Even if his attitude has been weak over the years, if he knew who did that back then, he would probably be unable to control his emotions, and just hit him with a stick. Without the 9 tails attack on the village, Konoha's current situation would be greatly different. For example, in the test of the Cloud Ninja Village, the 4th Hokage was there, and Konoha's head was smashed by him, and he threatened them. If the 3rd Hokage hadn't known that his village was in trouble, he would have been swallowing his anger all these years. If he was really a 24K coward, Konoha would have been gone or beaten to the point of losing his temper during the Ninja World War back then. How could he have supported the emergence of a figure like the 4th Hokage? That is to say, the 4th generation is gone, that is to say, the 4th generation is gone, that is, the 4th generation is gone. Ah, I am so angry, the more I think about it, the angrier I get. The 3rd Hokage had never witnessed the era when the 1st Hokage had dominated the ninja world, but he had witnessed it with his own eyes during the 4th Hokage's era, so, if it was really related to that person, he felt that he would probably not be able to control himself. However, the 3rd Hokage didn't really get angry immediately. After all, it was just a guess. Why do you think so? Except for Hinata Namikaze, who is supposed to be related to the 4th Hokage, this person and the person who controlled the Kyuubi to attack the village are the only 2 people who can pass the Great Barrier without any background in Konoha. There are only so many rebellious ninjas who have defected from Konoha, and everyone knows the truth. In recent years, even if Konoha can't catch them, they can still find the whereabouts of these people. And once their whereabouts are completely unknown, the ninjas who monitor them will naturally come back to report. In fact, except for people like Orochimaru, there are very few people who need special surveillance. But the 3rd Hokage has not yet received news that these rebellious ninjas have disappeared, so it is unlikely that this ninja is a rebellious ninja, and the same was true for that ninja back then. However, although the 3rd Hokage felt that Shikaku's analysis was reasonable, he could not draw a conclusion based on this alone. Waiting for their information first. When the 3rd Hokage and the others discussed the identity of Sasuke with the Rinnegan Eye, the Konoha ninja who went to explore the information found an extremely terrifying hell. A boy in a kimono stands on top of a fantastic statue, confronting a girl. Danzo, the leader of the root organization in the same period as the 3rd Hokage, fell to the ground, one hand was cut off, and there were obvious injuries on the other 2 feet and the other hand. Shisui, the genius of the Uchiha clan and the strongman among the Anbu, fell to the ground with one eye blinded. In addition, there were many members of the root organization lying on the ground, and almost every one of them fell with injuries. No matter who sees this scene, they will only feel the desperate lack of combat power. With the power of one person, he defeated so many Konoha ninjas, and they were not just ordinary Konoha ninjas. Every ninja who fell on the ground was a chunin or even a ninja above him. As the Hyuga clan is a wealthy family in Konoha, he asked himself that he had seen many scenes, but at this moment, this scene made him tremble. Who is that person? The ninjas of the Inuzuka clan and the Aburame clan were not much better. Even their ninja dogs and ninja insects were restless, obviously aware of the amazing power hidden by Sasuke with the Rinnegan eye. However, they thought this was shocking enough, but what they heard next was even more shocking. This is definitely a big event that can shake Konoha. Because their conversation involved two people. The first Hokage Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. The sixth generation Hinata was very confused at the moment, quite confused. She originally came here to watch the wind, but she was also in a difficult position because Sasuke had caused such a big deal. After all, she originally wanted the people on their side to naturally join Konoha here as members of the Namikaze clan. But, Urzu, if you do this now, her position will be very problematic. However, before the sixth generation Hinata could figure out how to solve this incident, the words of this second pillar made her even more confused. What is Mr. Madara's will? She also only knew one Uchiha Madara named Madara. But hasn't it been sealed since they came out? Could it be that you had communicated with him privately and had any plans? Or someone else named Madara? The sixth generation Hinata was a little confused. No, if you, Urzu, had any plans, tell her in advance. This would make her very passive. At this moment, the sixth generation Hinata suddenly saw the Rinnegan Sasuke blinking at her. At this moment, the sixth generation Hinata understood instantly. This is to let her cooperate with the acting. But what script did she follow? She didn't even give an explanation. Moreover, why should she cooperate with the other party? With their relationship, why should she cooperate with such a sudden drama? Hinata, the sixth generation, has her own set of policies, and it is not the turn of this second pillar to cause trouble. The sixth generation Hinata's eyes gradually became serious. It is impossible to cooperate. Since Rinnegan Sasuke insists on causing trouble, then here we will beat him to death and then make him an enemy of Konoha, so that he can't get close to Naruto-kun. Great, perfect plan. But at this moment, Rinnegan Sasuke slowly took out an envelope from his arms and threw it to the sixth generation Hinata. Here's what Mr. Madara wants to say. The sixth generation Hinata raised her eyebrows. She did not intend to cooperate with the Rinnegan Sasuke, so no matter what was in the envelope, she would never. Just then, the contents of the envelope slipped out. When the sixth generation Hinata saw it, her breathing suddenly became rapid. These are, how could, these things, actually, he actually took out these things. After defeating Shisui, Rinnegan Sasuke had many thoughts in his mind. Shisui's appearance could be said to be an accident, but even so, his original purpose was still not affected. His purpose in coming to the root organization is to conquer the root organization and then become the leader of the root organization. From the perspective of Rinnegan Sasuke, with a little manipulation, he can still properly rise to the top and become the leader of the root organization. As for how to operate, Rinnegan Sasuke's thinking is still very clear. First, he showed off his force value, and then defeated the whole family of the root organization. Well, this approach is consistent with the sixth generation Hinata. Of course, the sixth generation Hinata passively chose the root organization as the target, while he took the initiative. However, unlike the sixth generation Hinata, although Rinnegan Sasuke knew her plan and did what she wanted, he was not as naive as her. Of course, although he disliked that woman quite a bit, he actually didn't dislike the fact that she, like his adopted brother, was extremely naive in some aspects. After all, she was just like his adopted brother. Therefore, in their world, when Sasuke, the reincarnation I, led the root organization, he would often do things that were difficult for her to make decisions on her behalf. After all, even if you exclude the fact that you don't hate innocence, the relationship between the root organization and Naruto is complementary. In this world, the thinking of Sasuke with the Samsara Eye also started to act like this subconsciously. The plan of the sixth generation Hinata cannot be said to be bad, but there are some problems in the details. If one thing is not handled well, it will be basically impossible for them to live in Konoha peacefully. One is the issue of identity. Although the Namikaze clan is a good cover, but on the other hand, why do such powerful people have no information at all before? So they definitely need a more acceptable identity. The second is the issue of stance. According to the 6th generation Hinata's idea, these people will all belong to the Namikaze clan, but at this time a very serious problem will arise. If the Namikaze clan is a whole, it will definitely not be a good thing for Konoha. After all, with so many powerful ninjas gathered together, no matter how you look at it, it cannot be solved by simply saying that the family bloodline is strong. You must know that even the former Uchiha and Senju clan would not have such a luxurious lineup. Therefore, the Namikaze clan cannot be a whole, but must be divided, and they are still internally opposed to each other, checking and balancing each other, and there is no unified goal. Combining these 2 points and a little bit of Samsara I Sasuke's own selfishness, he came to the root organization and did these things. Of course, what happened to Shisui was an accident. However, Sasuke will not regret the reincarnation I. Sometimes, sacrifices must be made to achieve the goal. With the Rinnegan Sasuke here, he has basically achieved all his goals. The rest depends on whether the woman is willing to cooperate. Of course, Rinnegan Sasuke was still confident of convincing her, and why? Because he had something in his hands that could make that woman obedient. Just as Rinnegan Sasuke expected, when he took out that thing, the 6th generation Hinata's thoughts were instantly shaken. Should she cooperate, or cooperate? After all, this thing is really hard for her to resist. The 6th generation Hinata thought to herself, and she subconsciously took out the photos hidden in the envelope. These photos are the product of her Naruto-kun photography exhibition, which have not been stored in her photo album. As for why these photos are in the hands of Rinnegan Sasuke, although the reason is very complicated, in simple terms it is, when he was made to take the blame, the missing photos were thrown into his house and then confiscated by him. The 6th generation Hinata has taken a lot of photos of Naruto. To be honest, she has taken so many, seen so many, and collected so many. She has seen different versions of Naruto, so there are only a few photos of Naruto that she does not have. Photos, she simply couldn't refuse. The 6th generation Hinata silently collected some of the missing photos of Naruto, and then looked at the Rinnegan Sasuke. I believe you were sent by Mr. Madara, but Mr. Madara didn't mention it in his letter. Although she plans to cooperate with the Rinnegan Sasuke, the 6th generation Hinata must stick to her own plan. Seeing this, Rinnegan Sasuke smiled and said, "You are planning to help Naruto become Hokage according to Mr. Hashirama's will, and Mr. Madara's will is to make Naruto the leader of the root organization." The blue light flashed in the eyes of the 6th generation Hinata, not angry, but slightly surprised. She felt that she understood what Sasuke meant by the Rinnegan I. Sasuke with the Rinnegan I planned to use names like Madara and Hashirama that were ambiguous, but could definitely attract Konoha's attention, to achieve the purpose of concealing their identities. Basically, although the identities of the Namikaze clan are mysterious, they are people related to the first Hokage, Uchiha Madara, so in this way, their identities are not completely unknown. Putting Hashirama and Madara together gives people the illusion of what they might find if they investigate in the direction of the first Hokage and Madara. At the same time, Sasuke with the Rinnegan I also made it clear that the people in Konoha knew what they wanted to do, rather than being completely unclear about their purpose. Although the motive of why they wanted Naruto to become Hokage or the leader of the root organization was still unclear to them, they knew that what the Namikaze clan did had such a purpose. After that, the people of Konoha can deceive themselves and others and speculate. No matter whether they can figure out the truth, they will feel an inexplicable sense of peace of mind. This sense of security comes from the belief that they know some important information. It's not that I don't know anything, but I know some of the purposes and origins of the Namikaze clan. As long as we have this knowledge, the Namikaze clan is not a completely unknown mysterious force, but we can know some of their purposes and can deduce. Some of their identities come from relatively secretive forces. Regardless of whether it is true or not, as long as they believe it is true, the rationality of Rinnegan Sasuke and their identities can be guaranteed to the greatest extent. These are the plans of Rinnegan Sasuke, to reasonably complete his character by guiding their thinking. Originally, the 6th generation Hinata had also considered this, but although she didn't mind her purpose of letting Naruto become Hokage being exposed, she couldn't directly express this purpose herself, right? Naruto becoming Hokage will definitely be accepted by Konoha. After all, he is the nine-tailed Jinchuriki, and the Jinchuriki has a tradition of becoming the Shadow's family or shadow. Now the Rinnegan Sasuke's words are to create an image of the Namikaze clan that is vaguely related to the familiar names of the first generation in Madara, and then take the opportunity to let Konoha know their purpose. And whether Naruto becomes the leader of the root organization or the Hokage, it is not a bad thing for Konoha. However, although these things were the sixth generation Hinata's purpose, she didn't think of a good way to explain this purpose, and now Sasuke, the Rinnegan Eye, has given a feasible idea. After confirming the purpose of Rinnegan Sasuke, sixth generation Hinata decided to follow his plan. At least for now, she believed Rinnegan Sasuke's idea was feasible. After the two reached a consensus, all that was left was how to show off each other's acting skills. At this moment, the blue light in the sixth generation Hinata's eyes suddenly bloomed. Although you represent Mr. Madara's will. But I also represent Mr. Hashirama's will. As the blue light emerged, sixth generation Hinata exuded a powerful aura. I advise you not to hinder me from completing Mr. Hashirama's mission. When Rinnegan Sasuke heard this, he raised his eyebrows. He knew that the sixth generation Hinata had agreed to his plan, so it was not to cause trouble now, but just to show off his acting skills, so he said, "What do you want to do?" At this moment, the sixth generation Hinata exuded a strong aura, and looked sharply at the person hiding in the corner. She had already noticed the traces of the person, and started to show off her acting skills. Who is hiding there? A blue light flashed in the eyes of the sixth generation Hinata, and the building where the three ninjas were hiding began to take off, but there was no one inside. The sixth generation Hinata said expressionlessly, "It seems that no one else is here. Then, let's break up and go back to our homes to find our mothers." The sixth generation Hinata play has been performed in place, and there is no need to continue the rest. Samsara I Sasuke also left knowingly. The investigative trio didn't know this at this point, they just ran away in panic. It was actually discovered. They don't want to fight these two monster ninjas. After all, they are only responsible for reconnaissance, not the main combatant. The three people quickly arrived at the location of the third Hokage and told all the information. The third Hokage listened to these intelligence analyses, with a glint in his eyes. Although this information sounded very unreliable, he thought that there should be no one who was too idle to act and produce some useless false information. Moreover, whether it is Mr. Madara's will or Mr. Hashirama's will, there is an inexplicable feeling for the third Hokage. One way or another, these two people were not only members of the fourth Hokage's clan, but also people related to Konoha. Suddenly, a sense of peace of mind emerged. However, this sense of security made the third Hokage feel extremely scary. After all, after hearing this information, his first feeling was not to explore, but to feel relieved. If this information was false, it would be a bit scary. In the missions performed by ninjas, the collection, carrying an analysis of intelligence are common methods. Therefore, after the third Hokage had such a terrifying sense of security, he immediately decided to block this information. But before that, he had to confirm again whether this was just his illusion. "Shikaku, what do you think of this information?" "It's scary," Lu Ju said with a solemn expression. "This information seems to be given to us whatever we want, and it is also related to Konoha. This makes me feel very scary, as if I have fallen into just like in a trap carefully designed by others." "That's right," the third Hokage nodded in agreement. As Konoha's chief think tank, Shikaku obviously also saw the inappropriateness of this information. Especially the last woman, when she discovered the whereabouts of the three investigation team members, she did not capture them. This was obviously incredible, as if she specifically wanted them to bring this information back. The third Hokage thought for a while and asked, "Shikaku, which of this information do you think you can trust?" 2 o'clock. Shikaku analyzed. First, there are different groups within the Namikaze clan, and the communication between these groups is not frequent. At least if they have one will, then when they negotiated before, it should be like now, to show their attitude. This makes me feel that this scene now is more like helping the girl in front to deal with the aftermath of what she did. Hearing this, the third Hokage thought for a while and felt that it made sense. In fact, He had never thought about this, but now that Shikaku said this, he realized it. Indeed, the differences before and after make it difficult for people to feel that they are on a common position, and the exchange of information between them has always been smooth. The third Hokage asked again, "What is the second point?" In fact, regarding the second point, the third Hokage also had some speculations. Shikaku replied, "Although they used such means to convey information, judging from their actions, they should indeed be related to Naruto. I am afraid that the people behind these groups are related to Naruto's life experience." Is Naruto's life experience the fourth Hokage's family or the Uzumaki clan? The third Hokage thought, but in fact, he knew that it was more likely to be the fourth Hokage, not the Uzumaki clan. After all, if the Uzumaki clan is concerned, they should have red hair. In other words, there may be a slight deviation, but their current thinking is that it is possible for Naruto to become Hokage or the leader of the root organization. Yes, the third Hokage-sama. The third Hokage nodded slightly, and then suddenly asked, "But, I can understand if Naruto becomes Hokage, but why is there still an option to let Naruto become the leader of the root organization? The root organization is Konoha's darkness, etc. It is just Danzo's own boast. There must be a huge status gap between the root organization and the Hokage in actual status. After all, the root organization can abolish this organization as long as the third Hokage wants to. As for the root organization, in reality, it is just a training institution for Konoha Anbu. It is understandable for the 6th generation Hinata to say that her purpose is to make Naruto the third Hokage. However, conversely, the purpose of making Naruto the leader of the root organization is obviously not equivalent to becoming Hokage. Shikaku also showed a thoughtful look. This is also where I am confused. I suspect that the root organization may have a special status for a certain voice within the Namikaze clan. The third Hokage nodded and could only understand it this way. Shikaku, please don't let anyone else know this information except you and me. Shikaku hurriedly agreed. He also knew the importance. There was no way to judge whether it was true or false, but once the information that could make people feel at ease leaked, the situation would be quite serious. In general, although the third Hokage was not very satisfied with the information he received tonight, it was still a considerable gain. At least, the third Hokage could see some of the purposes of these two organizations. However, letting Naruto become Hokage, although this is what the third Hokage once thought about, but letting an unknown person push him to the position like this, the third Hokage thought it was not possible. The third Hokage felt that he should find time to meet Naruto's educator Iruka. That night, the entire Konoha was in turmoil. But at the same time, the meeting of the third Hokage also came to a conclusion. The Namikaze clan was admitted to Konoha Hospital the next day. Danzo was sitting on the hospital bed. Although he had lost an arm, it did not affect his ninja career. However, at this moment, Danzo had completely lost his fighting spirit. His efforts seemed like a joke, and his resistance seemed to be given a funny expression, which was useless. The Namikaze clan, that dangerous clan, entered Konoha in a grand manner. However, at this moment, Danzo didn't want to think about these things at all. At this time, he just wanted to stay quietly for a while. At this moment, members of the root organization appeared in the ward and said, "Danzo-sama, the Namikaze clan has decided to enter Konoha. Do we need to do anything?" Danzo was picking up a cup to drink water when the cup in his hand fell and broke. Danzo looked at this member of the root organization with a faint look. He clearly wanted to be alone, so why did this person bother him? "Leave me alone for a moment." "Yes, Danzo-sama." There was nothing unusual about this member of the root organization's mood. For him, this was just his usual attitude towards getting along with Danzo-sama. However, not long after, another member of the root organization came over. "Danzo-sama, Namikaze Hinata is currently." Not long after, another member of the root organization came over to report. The irritated Danzo didn't even bother to listen, and only waited for him to finish his report before letting him leave. And situations like this where the root organization reports intelligence will actually happen once in less than an hour after Danzo enters Konoha Hospital. And this is actually the organizational form of the root tissue. Danzo is the most senior member of the root organization, and members of the root organization will constantly report intelligence to him. On weekdays, Danzo serves as the center of the root organization, handling large and small affairs. Although the affairs are a little busy, he can actually handle them. But today, Danzo, who had lost his fighting spirit, didn't want to hear this so-called information at all. The Namikaze clan, Namikaze Hinata, these names, he doesn't want to hear any of them now, and he doesn't want to care about any of them. In fact, he can't care about them. How can he control and deal with these powerful ninjas who have become monsters one by one and can wipe out the entire organization at will? This battle made Danzo realize that he was just an ordinary mortal and could not get involved in the affairs of these powerful ninjas. For the first time, Danzo had the idea of retiring. In the past, he commanded the root organization. Even if there were occasional things he couldn't do, he was still on a mortal level after all. At least he can see clearly how strong the enemy is, and he can also see the gap between himself and the opponent. But this time is different. This time, 2 consecutive battles made Danzo realize that facing the so-called Namikaze clan, he had no means to defeat them. Even if he tried his best, used all his moves, and even planned to self-destruct, to the other party, it was like a child playing house. What can he do like this? Therefore, Danzo, who had never given up the idea of protecting Konoha even though he had failed in the struggle for power with the third Hokage and finally retreated into the darkness of Konoha and established the root organization, seemed at a loss at this moment. Doesn't he want to protect Konoha? Of course he wanted to, but what could he do? Nothing can be done, nothing can be done. Is this the life of Shimura Danzo? He thought he represented the darkness of Konoha, but in the end he discovered that when the real night came, his so-called darkness was like a small room with the door closed. The frustrated Danzo just cut off contact with other people, and stayed in a daze every day, like a salted fish, giving up his efforts and struggle. One day, a girl wearing root tissue clothes, but whom Danzo did not recognize, came to the hospital to take care of Danzo. The girl's name is Yu, but her surname is unknown, and members of the root organization do not need surnames. Although the girl is a member of the root organization, every day he comes, he just quietly changes Danzo's dressing and takes care of him, without saying anything to affect Danzo's mood. Gradually, Danzo, who was originally very resistant to members of the root organization, became accustomed to having such a person to take care of him. One day, Danzo, who had been lying in bed for another day, looked at Yuzu who was picking up the leftovers of the dinner he brought, and suddenly asked, "Yu, you came here to take care of me, you must have the mission to cheer me up. Are you up?" Danzo believes that this should be a task entrusted by members of the root organization or Danzo's family. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the information about the members of the root organization not to be reported since you came here. Hearing this, Yuzu just smiled and said, "Danzo-sama, I did come here on behalf of someone else." Danzo heard this and said expressionlessly, "If that's the case, why haven't you done anything or said anything these days?" Yuzu still smiled and said, "Danzo-sama, because I believe you. Since you are Danzo-sama, you will definitely recover one day. Maybe that day will be very early, or maybe that day will be very early. Late, but if it's you, then I believe it must be very early that day." Believe me, Danzo was touched when he heard this, but he didn't say anything. After all, in his opinion, a girl like this would only say such things to him after accepting the task. Therefore, he will not be swayed by such words that anyone can say. Since Danzo Shimura has decided to be a salty fish, he will never return to the root organization to deal with things that he cannot handle at all. What's more, trust is a bit heavy for him now. No matter how much others trust him, he can't respond to others' expectations. Danzo felt a little depressed when he thought of this, so he asked Yuzu to step back. However, when Yuzu retreated, Danzo noticed that her hands seemed to be trembling slightly when holding things. This slight tremor was so slight that it would have been impossible to detect it if it weren't for an experienced ninja like Danzo. However, Danzo didn't think much about it. After all, the other party was a member of the root organization, and he probably just failed during the mission. A few days after that night, the 6th-generation Hinata always felt a little uneasy. Usually when she has this symptom, it's when the man is planning something and it goes well. However, the sixth-generation Hinata still didn't quite understand what that man was planning. After all, in her opinion, it was impossible for that man to become the leader of the root organization in Konoha. He was not a villager from Konoha, so how could he defeat the members of the root organization by force? Then the third Hokage was afraid of him, so he made him the leader of the root organization or something like that. Suppression by force can indeed have the effect of making others surrender to a certain extent, but it is definitely not 100% effective and can work in everything. From the perspective of sixth-generation Hinata, what happened to the root organization this time was something that Sasuke with the Rinnegan Eye could never do even if he used force. However, even though she thought so in her heart, sixth-generation Hinata always felt a little inexplicably uneasy, and as far as the man she knew was concerned, he did not seem like someone who would do such a senseless thing. So, what is he planning? The sixth-generation Hinata thought for a while and found that he couldn't figure it out, so he stopped thinking about these insignificant things. Serious things must be important now. After all, her Naruto-kun photo exhibition hasn't started yet today. The third Hokage has been thinking about one thing recently, and that is whether to abolish the root organization. In fact, although the third Hokage of the root organization had thought about abolishing it, he had been reluctant to take action due to Danzo's relationship. But now, it seems that there is this opportunity. After all, even Danzo himself doesn't want to get involved in the root organization's affairs now. Of course, the third Hokage did not rush to make a judgment, but decided to see Danzo first. What's more, even if it is to be abolished, the handover of personnel is also very important. It is certainly impossible for these members of the root organization to directly resume their status as ordinary ninjas, but will have to stay in the Anbu for a period of time. After finding some free time, the third Hokage came to Konoha's hospital. Before coming here, the third Hokage had never thought about what Danzo's current situation might be like. In his opinion, he had just lost a little fighting spirit. But what he never expected was that when he came to the hospital, what he saw was Danzo lying on his back with his clothes on, food in his hands and his mouth open. "You, bring me a cup," Danzo said as he looked at the cup that he could reach with his hand. "You, pour some juice into the cup for me, and then make it cold for me. It's almost 20 degrees. Danzo said as he changed into a more comfortable position. At this time, Danzo noticed the arrival of the third Hokage. In the past, when Danzo saw the third Hokage, he would definitely have a cold arc at the corner of his mouth and a deep cold expression on his face. But now he said lazily, "Oh, Sarutobi, you're here. Yuzu, help me bring a stool for Sarutobi." The third Hokage looked at Danzo like this, with many thoughts in his mind. That Danzo, that ruthless, cold-blooded Danzo, turned into such a virtuous person after facing the strong men of the Namikaze clan. This had to make the third Hokage feel deeply afraid of the ninjas of the Namikaze clan. However, like Danzo, he was unable to do anything to those powerful ninjas of the Namikaze clan. However, Danzo gave up, but he has not given up yet. He is the Hokage of Konoha, and he cannot fall. The lazy Danzo didn't care what the third Hokage was thinking, he just wanted to be a salted fish in peace. Wherever he can be lazy, he will be lazy. No matter what the third Hokage said, he would not waver. "Danzo, you have changed a lot now," the third Hokage said with emotion that before he came here, he never dreamed that Danzo would become such a salty fish. When Danzo heard this, he just said lazily, "It's just that people have become realistic. Knowing that what they are doing is actually in vain. Instead of continuing to do things that waste youth in life, it is better to think about nothing like this and settle down. Live happily as a retired ninja." The third Hokage heard this and opened his mouth, but in the end he couldn't say anything. After all, there was nothing he could do to dissuade him. "That's fine. You can take a rest and have a rest. As for the root tissue, I came here today. Actually, I wanted to inform you that I was considering abolishing the root tissue." Abolish the root organization. Although Danzo is now a fisherman, the root organization was established by him, and he cannot be completely emotionless. When he heard this, he showed a complicated expression. However, Danzo quickly lost his complicated expression. After all, in his opinion, the root organization is just like that after all. He had worked hard for most of his life and worked hard to build an organization for Konoha, but he was killed by a young boy in a matter of seconds. The so-called root tissue is actually that level of tissue and is not worth remembering at all. Danzo thought to himself, but for some reason, he felt a little unhappy. However, he couldn't explain why he was unhappy. No matter what, Danzo only had complicated thoughts for a moment, and then he said nonchalantly, "It's up to you." The root organization should represent the darkness of Konoha, and today's root organization cannot bear this responsibility. If this is the case, then it should be abolished. Even if there was a trace of unwillingness in Danzo's heart, it was only a slight trace of unwillingness and could not change his judgment. When the third Hokage saw this, he didn't say anything more and just left with a complicated expression. After the third Hokage left, Danzo looked at Yuzu next to him and suddenly asked, "Yuzu, I have no objection to the third Hokage abolishing the root organization. Do you think I did something wrong?" Although Danzo knew that he would not change his approach even if the other party answered incorrectly, he was still curious about how Yuzu, a member of the root organization, would feel about his choice. The root organization was established by Danzo-sama. You have absolute control over it. Just do whatever Danzo-sama wishes. Yuzu's answer, as always, did not bother Danzo, but this answer did not satisfy Danzo. Danzo wasn't bothered by this statement, but he was dissatisfied with Yuzu's attitude. He thinks Yuzu's attitude is very bad. At least Yuzu failed to express her position as a member of the root organization, but his own position. However, after getting along with him these days, Danzo also knew that these were Yuzu's characteristics, so he didn't want to say more. In the evening, not long after Yuzu left the hospital, there was a loud noise outside. Danzo was moved in his heart and subconsciously went behind the door to listen to the sounds outside. "Don't disturb Danzo-sama." He heard it clearly, it was Yuzu's voice. "Yuzu, don't forget the reason why you were allowed to join the root organization. Your mission is to bring Danzo-sama back to our root organization. But now not only have you not made any move, but Danzo-sama has actually agreed to abolish the root organization. What are you doing here? I have my own policy, and I trust Danzo-sama. Yuzu, it seems you didn't really join us at all. You are a spy sent by the Uchiha clan." Uchiha clan. Danzo felt that he suddenly knew an incredible news. When did his root organization actually join the Uchiha clan, and has it been taking care of him all this time? Then, there was the sound of weapons being handed over. Danzo listened behind the door, not knowing whether to take action. At this moment, the battle outside the door ended, and Yu's voice came out, "Go away, don't disturb Danzo-sama's rest again. You will regret it, Uchiha Yuzu." After saying that, the sound outside the door completely disappeared. Danzo returned to the hospital bed, gradually feeling a little confused about the identity of Uchiha Yuzu. Although he is from the Uchiha clan, he joined the root organization and took on missions. But instead of completing the task, she was just taking care of him. Could it be that this is a conspiracy of the Uchiha clan? Danzo thought so at first, but then he felt that it was not the case. After all, everyone in the Uchiha clan was very naive, so there should not be such a roundabout strategy. So, what is the purpose of Uchiha Yuzu? However, even though he knew that there was a problem with Uchiha Yuzu's identity, Danzo felt a little uncomfortable in his heart for some reason whenever he recalled the scene where Yuzu just insisted on saying, "I just trust Danzo-sama," when facing the members of the root organization. Throbbing. Trust is obviously the word he hates the most now, but at that moment, when everyone tried their best to restore Danzo to his past self, only that girl trusted him. On the hospital bed, Danzo tossed and turned that night, but couldn't fall asleep. The woman's appearance kept appearing in his mind. Naruto sat cross-legged on the tree and stretched out his right hand. The light of thunder and lightning was shining. This was the change in the chakra properties of the thunder attribute. It then transformed into a faint cyan light. This was the change in the chakra properties of the wind attribute. Then again transformed into blue light. This is the change in the nature of water chakra. After the chakra properties of the 5 attributes changed once, Naruto suddenly jumped up, and then formed a seal with his hands, multiple shadow clone technique. Naruto's 36th wind egg. The 36 consecutive blows easily cracked the tree stump. Naruto's 36th thunder egg. The 36 consecutive hits easily penetrated the tree stump. Naruto 36 consecutive water eggs. The 36 consecutive hits did not pose much threat to the stumps. Naruto 36th company earth egg. With 36 consecutive hits, the tree stump was easily kicked out into a pit. Naruto's 36th fire egg. After practicing 36 times, the tree stump could easily burst into flames. Naruto 36 fried eggs. Ah, this is food. After doing all this, Naruto announced that this stage of training could end here. These are the results of his past few days. According to the fused memory, he can easily reproduce these things, but it will take some time. These few days of hard work are just enough. Using the fused memory and the training ability of the shadow clone, Naruto quickly mastered the changes in the nature of the 5 attributes. As for yin and yang, it would take more time. Of course, now he has only mastered the simple 5 nature changes, and it will also take some time to further integrate into ninjutsu. But even so, Naruto's ninjutsu value changed from C+ to B. What kind of numerical change is it when crossing from C to B? Based on the fused memory, Naruto guessed that it probably reached the level of the basic ability of a chunin. There were no changes in other aspects, even Shion, who Naruto felt should have been promoted, had not changed. However, mastering the 5 nature changes also means that combat ability and other aspects have grown, and the possibility of adapting to different battles has also increased. In addition to dealing with women, which is still a bit tricky, Naruto believes that his ninjutsu should be able to achieve the effects of A-level ninjutsu or even S-level ninjutsu when dealing with men. However, when facing powerful female ninjas, it should still be only B-level degree. It's just that there are only a few powerful female ninjas, and they are not so easy to meet. As for future training, Naruto is still thinking about it. According to the fused memory and the experience in the book, what he will practice next should be the prerequisite ninjutsu Rasengan of the tailed beast cannon that is necessary for Jinchuriki. Compared with other ninjutsu, the Rasengan ninjutsu is the prerequisite ninjutsu of the tailed beast cannon, the core skill of the Jinchuriki. It is undoubtedly an important and powerful ninjutsu for the 9-tailed Jinchuriki. However, before that, there was a problem. As a Jinchuriki, no matter how many powerful ninjutsu and abilities Naruto masters, if he cannot communicate with the tailed beasts, his strength will be greatly limited. Jinchuriki is essentially a practice of communication between humans and tailed beasts. However, how to communicate with the 9 tails in the body and how to get along with the 9 tails is another question. Maybe it wasn't Kyuubi's behavior that was wrong in what happened back then, but there was something wrong with Kyuubi's existence. This was the reason why Naruto couldn't let go of Kyuubi. The Sage of 6 Paths in the book said to Kyuubi that one day someone will appear who can accept them. However, this sentence itself has a big problem. It's not that the tailed beast is accepted by the human group, but by a certain person. Don't you think there's something wrong with this way of thinking? Spend countless years being accepted by one person, and then after that person dies, they are not accepted. To put it bluntly, Naruto thinks that the problem with the 9 tails is that it just accepts it passively and has not considered how to take the initiative to get along with others. In this way, according to the development of the book, if Naruto dies, the next 9 tails Jinchuriki may inherit Naruto's ideas and not look at it strangely, but what about the future? What about going on? Humans would always repeat the same mistakes, and Naruto could almost tell that in a few more generations of Jinchuriki, humans' fear of tailed beasts would reappear if given the chance. Kyuubi can't do it without making changes. Naruto thinks so. However, according to the character of Kyuubi, the eldest son in the sky, the second son in the earth, and the third son in the earth, it is strange that he would take the initiative to change it. Naruto hates Kyuubi, not only because of what happened when he was born, but also because Kyuubi's position is very similar to Naruto's. I am hated by others, but I also want to be recognized by others. However, Kyuubi chose another path and gave up. Even Naruto in the book always persists in his efforts under mountain-like pressure and reality. Hate that iron cannot become steel. For Naruto, this should be a similar emotion when looking at the Kyuubi. Kyuubi was complaining when being controlled by Madara. Kyuubi was complaining when being subdued by the first Hokage. When being sealed by the fourth Hokage, Kyuubi was still complaining. When you can survive, you just wander around and refuse to take action to change your situation. When you can't beat someone, you keep complaining about the other person to change your life. It's not your fault, you have no problem, it's everyone else's fault, it's the whole world that's wrong. This is a typical dead house, squatting at home and chewing on the thinking of the old people. Everything was the fault of the first Hokage or Uchiha Madara who captured Kyuubi. In Naruto's view, even without these two people, Kyuubi would definitely be dealt with as a threat in the future. If you can't adapt to society, you will be eliminated by society, and natural selection will occur, and Ninetales is a typical creature that cannot adapt to society or the environment. Kyuubi blames his mistakes in life on others for attacking him, which is an idea only a misfit would have. Generally speaking, the tailed beasts are almost all old people like the Ninetales who are not adapted to society. In the eyes of the Six Paths Sage, the so-called people who tolerate them are actually just looking for someone who can be eaten by them. Of course, there is something wrong with sealing them into the human body. It is equivalent to forcing them to do unpaid manual labor. At least Naruto doesn't think how many people will become ninjas if they don't get paid for their tasks. The tailed beasts are the ones who eat the old people, and the Jinchuriki are the slave owners who force them to do white work. This is the current situation of the tailed beasts and the Jinchuriki. Naruto took over this elderly nugget from his parents, and he had no choice but to consider how to get along with Kyuubi. One is to be like the Jinchuriki of all ages, talk about feelings with Kyuubi, then recognize it, and then synchronize power with him. The other is to change the thinking of the nine-tailed clan. It seems like you can choose from both options, but in fact both are pitfalls. Either way, it was a terrible choice in Naruto's opinion. I can't say it's completely incorrect, but it's generally a very problematic choice. After all, for the gnawing clan, whether you approve it or deny it, it will not change and it will still only gnaw on the old. It's impossible not to interfere with him, and it's impossible to interfere with him. It's such a thorny issue. Naruto's eyes moved slightly. Other than that, it's not completely impossible. Naruto thought to himself that he now had a plan, but he needed to find someone to help him. Hinata, help me. The sixth generation Hinata, who was eating instant noodles, heard this, sucked the noodles, wiped them clean, then patted his substantial chest and said, "No matter what happens, leave it to me, Naruto-kun." Naruto had a plan in mind regarding getting along with Kyuubi, but to realize this plan, he needed the help of the sixth generation Hinata. In other words, he needs someone to help him suppress Kyuubi. Apart from the sixth generation Hinata, perhaps only Sasuke, who ran to nowhere after being summoned, could help. But Sasuke couldn't be found, so he had no choice but to ask the sixth generation Hinata. After Naruto explained his plan, the sixth generation Hinata seemed a little curious. Is Naruto-kun planning to form a mission-style relationship with Kyuubi? Yes. To make a horse run well, you must feed it enough grass. This is also a reasonable employment relationship. In the past, the Jinchuriki only knew how to play the emotional card, and Naruto believed that this was the reason why they and the tailed beasts could not understand each other. Applied somewhere, a confusing operation quotation once said by a certain boss is, "What are friends? Usually they play nice with you and treat you like brothers, but when you don't pay them wages, they turn against you one by one." This is plastic friendship. The relationship between the tailed beasts and Jinchuriki today is the same. However, how to pay Kyuubi wages and let him give chakra as labor is also a big problem. Fortunately, Naruto, who had merged the memory of another Naruto, had a way to work it out. After getting the consent of the sixth generation Hinata, Naruto began to enter the spiritual world. Because another Naruto had already tried it, Naruto entered the spiritual world smoothly. In the huge prison, Kyuubi lay on the ground. As the tailed beast among the tailed beasts, the Nine Tails once roamed the earth unscrupulously. There were humans who tried to surrender to him, but they were all defeated by him. During his reckless life, Kyuubi encountered an enemy he could not fight against and was eventually captured. Kyuubi hates humans and is imprisoned here because he is a human. He hates Uchiha Madara, hates Senju Hashirama, hates Uzumaki Mito, hates Uzumaki Kushina, hates Namikaze Minato. These people are the reason why he has fallen to this day. He can obviously live freely, so why should he be sealed here? If others want it, he has to donate his chakra. Why? Kyuubi has been spying on the current Jinchuriki. As long as there is a chance, he will seize the opportunity and break through. But recently, Kyuubi discovered that the Jinchuriki he had been observing gradually changed. Originally, he was discriminated against, feared just like himself, but until that girl appeared, he changed. He became more confident and more willing to change the world around him. Kyuubi felt deeply jealous of this. Because this child, whose life was extremely short and only lived for more than 10 years, did something that he could not do for a long time. Is it because he is also a human being? Is it easy for him to be understood just because he is a human being? Then, it was that child who appeared in front of the jealous Kyuubi. The claws stretched out of the prison, trying to tear the child apart. However, the chain of the seal emerged and locked it back, and Kyuubi also regained his composure. Uzumaki Naruto, we finally meet. Kyuubi also looked forward to meeting Naruto, but it was definitely not with good intentions. The moment I saw him, I tore him apart and bit him to pieces. This was what Kyuubi was thinking about and the result after meeting. However, now, Kyuubi's idea seems to be coming true. After Naruto approached the prison, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the talisman stuck to the front of the prison, preparing to tear it open. At this moment, Kyuubi felt more panic than joy. At least, he didn't think that this changed child would do such a reckless thing as letting him wreak havoc. So he even did something he shouldn't have done. He yelled, "Uzumaki Naruto, what do you want to do?" At this time, the child smiled and said to him, "Of course I will let you out. Of course I'm going to release you." Naruto didn't lie in this sentence, and he did intend to release the Kyuubi. Release the 9 tails, then let the 6th generation Hinata suppress it, and then negotiate with it. This is something that can only be done under his conditions. However, when considering whether the 6th generation Hinata could suppress the Kyuubi, he had to consider another thing first. When Naruto put his hand on the talisman, a figure with the same face as Naruto, but much more mature, appeared in front of him. Naruto, if you want to do such a dangerous thing, you have to think about it again and again. This man has golden hair and is known as the Golden Flash in the ninja world, the 4th Hokage of Konoha. At the same time, he is also Naruto's father, Namikaze Minato. When sealing the Kyuubi, Minato also sealed the 2 chakras of himself and his wife. Minato's chakra is used to prevent the erosion of the 9 tails, and Kushina's chakra is used to help Naruto master the power of the 9 tails. After all, Minato today is just a chakra, so he doesn't know much about the current situation. However, Naruto knew his state, so he didn't plan to use this time to talk about unnecessary things. If there was a chance in the future, he would consider reincarnating from the dirt to talk about things. Father, I will keep this short story about what happened to me and my current plans. Naruto didn't want Kyuubi to hear these things for the time being, so he and Minato went aside and whispered. Kyuubi snorted dissatisfiedly upon seeing this. Minato, on the other hand, went from being confused at the beginning to dumbfounded at the end. This son's experience is also quite amazing. However, the person outside now is his daughter-in-law. If the daughter-in-law, if Miss Hinata has such strength, I naturally have no objection. But if you take out this talisman, Kushina, your mother's chakra will follow. Appear. This means that if something goes wrong in the future, you will have to solve it on your own, and we can't help you. Naruto said seriously. Father, please believe me. I understand. Even though you are still young, I can't treat you like a child anymore. Since there was still some time, Minato also wanted to see his wife. Naruto then came to the door and once again stretched out his hand on the talisman. At this time, another figure appeared. Naruto, you want to pull, Why is Minato here too? Red hair, and a vibrant voice. Bloody Pepper, Konoha's second 9 tails Jinchuriki, and Naruto's mother, Uzumaki Kushina. Kushina was confused that this chakra was sealed inside to help Naruto control the power of the 9 tails. But now, it doesn't seem to be the case. Naruto behaved himself again, pulling Kushina aside and whispering about his affairs. Kushina's brain was not as fast as Minato's. After listening for a long time, she didn't understand half of it. However, she still understood something. ignore the other things. Now outside, our daughter-in-law can help Naruto suppress the Kyuubi. Is that what you mean? Kushina spoke quickly, without Minato's worries at all. Minato could only smile bitterly at this. Except for my daughter-in-law, everything is basically right. For now, although they have a good relationship, Naruto and the 6th generation Hinata are not that kind of relationship either. Anyway, this way we understand. Kushina suddenly sat down rudely. Since we don't need to do anything, the three of us will sit down and chat. Although Kushina was not quick to understand other aspects, she was very adaptable. She understood instantly that there was nothing she needed to do, so she decided to make good use of her time and have a chat to find out how her son was doing. In her opinion, with her blood-colored chili pepper and her husband's golden shining blood, her son should not do badly. After all, she beat her peers in Konoha back then, and her husband was also the first person to graduate from the Ninja Academy. Although Naruto was a little surprised by this development, he actually wanted to talk to his parents. Anyway, the Kyuubi matter is not far behind in such a short time. But, is this what it feels like to have parents? It seems pretty good. Then, Naruto, how are your grades in school? The last one on the crane is always the last one. The atmosphere froze in an instant. Immediately afterwards, the bloody pepper exploded and hurt people, punching him with one punch, knocking Naruto away. Asshole, how did you study and why are you in last place? Calm down, Kushina. Although we all exist in the form of chakra in Naruto's body now, Naruto will still feel pain if he is beaten like this. Minato quickly stopped his wife. Naruto slowly got up from the ground, covering his swollen face, and suddenly felt that it was better to be an orphan. Kushina quickly calmed down. Although she was in last place, it was just a result. Maybe her son, like her, was a genius in fighting, the worst in grades, and the number one in fighting in the academy. So, Kushina asked patiently, how was your performance when you were sparring with other students before? This time Naruto hesitated. Should I just confess it directly? If you say you can't beat anyone in the academy, will you still get beaten? At this time, Naruto subconsciously recalled the teachings of Iruka-sensei. Whenever he fights with other students in the academy, Mr. Iruka will always say that this is not right. Indeed, although it is common sense for ninjas to fight, it is definitely wrong to fight in the academy. So, Naruto decided to hide the fact that he kept getting into fights in school and got beaten up. Mom, I'm so good, why did I get into fights at school? Then, why are you so useless? You can't even fight in school. What kind of temperament do you have? Why are you just like a soft-legged shrimp? Kushina broke away from Minato's embrace, flew out, and punched Naruto away. Minato quickly showed his amazing speed and intercepted him again. Honey, calm down, fighting in school is not a good thing. If you don't fight in school, you still look like a ninja. Kushina said dissatisfied. Naruto got up again, his heart moved. It sounds like my mother is different from Iruka-sensei and supports him in fighting. So, this time, Naruto thought about it and answered honestly so he wouldn't be beaten. Mom, actually it's not like I didn't fight in school. I fought often and was educated by Mr. Iruka. This time, Kushina was indeed not angry anymore. She nodded with satisfaction and said, that's right. How can my son not fight at school? What's that like? Like her, during the Ninja Academy, all students were beaten from head to toe. This is the traditional bloodline of the Uzumaki clan. The Uzumaki clan should have a bad temper. How can you be decent if you have a soft personality? Moreover, since she and Minato's excellent bloodline, then her son's fighting record must be one of the best. Kushina thought to herself, and then asked, what was your record when you fought in school? I have never defeated Sasuke, and it seems that others have not won either. They always lose. Only recently. Naruto didn't react and answered honestly. The atmosphere froze again. Why are you so useless? This time, Minato not only hugged Kushina tightly with both hands, but also used his feet, but his whole body was soon pulled forward by Kushina. Calm down, Kushina. However, Kushina, who came to Naruto, did not throw a punch this time. Naruto, who was all ready to receive a punch, subconsciously raised his head, only to see Kushina standing there suddenly crying. I'm sorry, Naruto, you must be having a hard time. If Dad were still here, your grades in the Ninja Academy would not be so bad. Minato would definitely teach you carefully. Even if you don't become the number one in the academy, you will definitely be among the best. If Mom were still here, you would definitely not be able to defeat anyone in the Ninja Academy, because Mom would tell you how to defeat them all. Minato let go of his hand and Kushina buried her face in his arms. The two figures gradually disappeared. This is when chakra is about to be exhausted. Perhaps, because she was aware of this, Kushina did not let her temper act. Minato hugged Kushina, then smiled and said to Naruto, "You have already read what we want to tell you from the book, so there is no need for us to explain it to you again. Because of that ability, Naruto, you will not be alone in the future, so we can rest assured. However, I also have some words that I want to say to you after learning about your life. If one day, we can summon people from another world to this world, not us, then please don't hesitate to treat them as your parents. Let them take care of you instead of us." Kushina, who had escaped from Minato's arms, seemed to not know how to face Naruto, so she just stretched out her hand and said, "Goodbye, Naruto." Although Naruto's expression seemed a little lonely, as if he had to say goodbye immediately after meeting each other, he still tried his best not to show his emotions. "Goodbye, Dad, Mom." Both men's chakra was exhausted. However, two light groups appeared on the ground. Naruto recalled what Minato said just now, and without hesitation, he reached out to touch the two light groups. Pick up one piece of Uzumaki Kushina, Mama Jinchuriki fragment, 1/10. Pick up one piece of Namikaze Minato, Dad Jinchuriki fragment, 1/10. Naruto showed a strange expression. The fragments picked up this time were obviously different from the previous ones. In front of the fragments, there are 3 more words, Jinchuriki. Moreover, what does the mother's Jinchuriki and the father's Jinchuriki mean? Why does it sound so amazing? Although Naruto felt a little strange, he couldn't check the situation without the book in his hand, so he had to wait until he went out to find out. Naruto took a deep breath, adjusted his emotions, and then looked at Kyuubi in the prison. Although he had just experienced a sensational scene here, Kyuubi was not moved at all. Kyuubi looked at Naruto and suddenly asked, "Naruto Uzumaki, are you really planning to release me?" Naruto nodded, but said, "Although this is the case, even if I release you from here, you can't leave my body. There is a very powerful ninja outside, and you should also know her strength." "How?" Hearing this, Kyuubi was surprised by Naruto's honesty, but in fact he also knew that Naruto would definitely not let him go like this, so he said, "I know she is strong, but even she can't force me. I lend you my strength." "I know, so it's not her who wants you to lend your power willingly, but me. I have something deep in my heart that I want to say to you, but you can't say it in this state." Naruto reached out his hand and tore the talisman apart. Clicking, Kyuubi stretched out his claws, opened the prison, and then his claws came to Naruto. "Uzumaki Naruto, aren't you afraid that I will kill you? You can't kill me, and if you can get benefits without taking risks, then the world must be full of happy things." Kyuubi retracted his claws and then lay down. He was just scaring Naruto and could not really take action. Moreover, there was a woman outside ready to protect him. Then he asked, "Tell me, Uzumaki Naruto, I want to know, what method will you use to make me contribute my chakra? I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more."